Hello, 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 everybody out there in Love Your Liver Livestream land. This is Dr. Garrett Smith of the Nutrition Detective and nutritiondetective.com around these YouTube parts. And today we have a very exciting show. I did let people know last week that we're going to be going over connecting toxic bile theory and toxicities and deficiencies to acne today. Because, we're human. We're all vain somewhat. Nothing wrong with that. That's nature designed us that way. That's why people look at appearance, is because appearance is a big marker of health, right? If you're pushing out toxicity through your skin, let's say like acne or other skin problems, or you're showing toxicity in your teeth, like yellow teeth. I don't know if you know this, but bile and vitamin A are toxic and yellow, and they stain your teeth. If you can see, we use visual markers of all sorts to tell if somebody's toxic or not. So acne is a marker of toxicities and deficiencies. Why does it tend to show up in youth, right? In puberty times? Well, because you start making a ton of hormones and your liver has to deal with hormones. Hormones are some of the most complex and complicated and difficult things for your liver to deal with. So if the liver's already overloaded and not doing well, it will have a much harder time dealing with the hormones. So everything starts backing up, and then you start pushing out stuff through your skin. Now, what I want to go into first is, before we get into the toxicities and deficiencies in the toxic bile theory. First of all, if you want to learn more about toxic bile theory, if you're totally new here, you can watch either live stream 71 here or 53. People have told me that both of them are good for a background in toxic bile theory. If you've watched one and you haven't watched the other, you may want to go watch the vice versa one. And then things about toxic bile theory and vitamin A that we're going to go over here today. One is that the different recipes of bile, toxic bile that leaks into your blood, will determine different symptom patterns. The way things show up, it'll show up as different syndromes, different symptoms. It can be different types of skin disease. Maybe you had one skin disease at one part of your life, and now you have another skin disease at another part of your life. You just changed the recipe. You could do this with things like medications or herbs. And then the other thing is, as you'll even see in acne, people will go, oh, vitamin A helps acne because of isotretinoin and Accutane. And some people will use retinol in the form of like cod liver oil, and it might help it a little bit. As you're going to see, if you change the recipe, the different types of vitamin A that are around, you change the type of skin disease. So it's going to be pretty cool. Those of you who are totally new to this, like I said, go watch those backup, the basic foundational videos, either 53 or 71, and you may want to catch up on that before you get into this, so you understand how this whole toxic bile theory works. And we're going to be covering the exact same patterns of toxicities and deficiencies that we always cover before. Now, if you haven't already, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and like the video so that you can get notifications about events in the future. And we do a weekly live stream here every week. If I seem like I'm a little behind today, I don't know why, but I hardly slept a wink last night. I listed out to myself. I think there was like 6 or 7 reasons why I might not have slept well last night. And so if you put them all together, it was a pretty good reason not to sleep well. So, everybody has bad sleep nights. That's not an indicator of anything. You can have stress and just not sleep well, right? But let's get into it. For those of you who have questions, you remember super chats always get priority questions. And then if you want to just post them, I will try to get to them by the end. But as you're going to see, I have tons of stuff to go over. So let's just get into it right now. Let me pull up my chat so I can see it before we go. Okay. So let's get into it. Okay, Joe, we can switch over. Here we go first. Let me make this is big enough. Yeah. Okay. Oh, my glass, but there it is. I just wanted to go over first. So some people, this is a huge paper. This is a huge review paper, and I want to go through it and show you how the Love Your Liver program principles, which are inside the Nutrition Detective Network at members.nutritiondetective.com. That's where you can sign up for the Love Your Liver program. And also, if you want to go to the madness of, or I'm sorry, it's just madnessofmodernnutrition.com. That's where our free course is. It's on both. It's inside the network and on and through email. So if you want to if you want to find out more about what we do, madnessofmodernnutrition.com. And then if you want to sign up for the Love Your Liver program, where you're going to find these principles in much more detail, that's members.nutritiondetective.com. So let's go into this. Long-term Western diet intake leads to dysregulated bile acid signaling. Oh, this is not the big, I think this is the big paper. Dysregulated bile acid signaling and dermatitis. Dermatitis is skin irritation, rashes, stuff like that, with Th2 and Th17 pathway features in mice. Background: dietary interventions are implicated in the development of atopic dermatitis, that's allergic skin reactions, psoriasis, and acne. Well, let me just tell you, on one of these live streams, I went over psoriasis. There was a study in 1953 where they went over how psoriasis was basically mostly cured in people with a low vitamin A diet. Okay, so if you have psoriasis, I had psoriasis. I don't have it anymore. It's a vitamin A toxicity problem. And I've posted other studies showing higher vitamin A in every measure inside of psoriasis skin. Okay. If you have psoriasis, you have a vitamin A problem. Atopic dermatitis, allergic problems, vitamin A toxicity related. Absolutely. Acne, well, that's what we're getting into, right? So when we talk about toxic bile theory, okay, your liver makes most of your bile, a huge majority of your bile. Just a quick rundown on toxic bile theory. Your liver makes bile. Bile is how your liver gets rid of toxicity. So when people talk about your liver detoxing, right, your liver doesn't just make toxins just go poof and disappear. It changes them and puts them into, the best way it gets rid of them is into the bile. Okay? Think of the bile as your liver's poop. Now, your liver poops into your small intestine. Then what you want to do is to get rid of that toxicity is poop it out. That's what you want to do. We only on a standard American diet, the SAD diet, right? We only get rid of about 5% of our bile a day. How can we get rid of more? Soluble fiber. And if you're able to do it without making yourself too constipated, activated charcoal is a very good way to grab onto bile. Activated charcoal doesn't really bulk up your poop like soluble fiber does. So they both have different benefits to it. But like an example of a diet that people see a lot of positive results from would be the carnivore diet, like the all muscle meat carnivore, not organs, not eggs, not butter, not milk. All muscle meat carnivore diet. I went over this on Twitter today. An all muscle meat carnivore diet, the reason why people feel so much better so fast, is this what we use? No, we don't use this generally. Can some people do a variation of this and do well for a while? Yes, absolutely. So an all muscle meat carnivore diet is very low, very, very low in vitamin A. It's very, very low in copper. Two things that we do not like here. So that's great. It's very low in other toxic metals, manganese, other stuff like that. It is high in zinc. Zinc is critical. There's almost no fructose in it. That's good for your liver. There's, what was the other thing? Oh, there's most people are not or shouldn't be adding more fat to an all muscle meat carnivore diet. So they're not adding processed oils and fats. So there's lots of reasons why an all muscle meat carnivore diet can help. The things that it's missing long-term, for those of you who are doing it, you want to move towards doing something in the way of, if you don't eat any carbohydrates and you don't take in any soluble fiber, you will starve your bifido population in your gut. You will absolutely starve them. They will disappear, which creates a dysbiosis, which creates health problems down the road. You're going to be making more toxic secondary bile acids and other stuff like that. You want to definitely take care of your bifido. It's been shown that when we're born, we have the most bifido in our life. And as normal people tend to age, the bifido goes down and down and down. And most people with aging, here's the funny thing about two things we just talked about. As people age, their bifido population goes down. As people age, their vitamin A in their blood and their copper in their blood go up. Do people usually feel better as they age? No. So what can we do to feel better? We can do the opposite of those things. We can try to maintain our bifido populations by not doing things that starve them and kill them. And we could make sure that we're not putting in vitamin A and copper, which are very obviously accumulating in the system, spilling out of the liver into the blood. So that's one basis of like the Love Your Liver program, and how we can explain how other diets can be helpful. Getting enough animal protein is a key part of this approach. It's not, I mean, we want to make sure we get enough of it, but we are not an all muscle meat carnivore thing. And the other problem with the carnivore problem, the diet, the all muscle meat carnivore diet, the organ meat and dairy carnivore diet is an absolute disaster. It's an absolute disaster. And we have tons of people in the program who can say they thought it was wonderful once, and then it eventually turned real bad on them. And now we're trying to fix that damage. The other thing is, without any soluble fiber or charcoal to bind up bile. So what I said earlier, like the standard American diet, they say you only poop out about 5% of that bile. And that would be bound to fiber and stuff like that, and just in the poop in general. But the more fiber you have in there, the more you poop out, the more it binds to the bile and the more you poop out. So otherwise, you reabsorb 95% of that bile and it just goes right back up to the liver. If there's no soluble fiber or no charcoal or what we call bile binders, which would be extremely next to nothing on an all muscle meat carnivore diet, you hardly poop out any bile. So not only is it going to create a dysbiosis over time by starving the bifido, but you're not going to poop out much bile, which will eventually cause problems. The diet itself is very low toxin, which is great. And many people see many things clear up, but then we've also had quite a few people who were long-term all muscle meat carnivore dieters, and it ended up going bad for them at some point. Even just adding some psyllium fiber to an all muscle meat carnivore diet can completely change the game. Okay, so let's get back into the study here. So with toxic bile theory, when you leak toxic bile via leaky gut, toxic bile causes leaky gut. Joe's gone. Okay, so Joe, the show is still going. So toxic bile causes leaky gut. It leaks into your bloodstream via there. It can, if it goes back up into your stomach like GERD or reflux, then you can absorb it. I've shown the research where you absorb it through the stomach into your bloodstream. It could, I'm trying to think of the other ways. It could leak out of your liver itself. That's called intrahepatic cholestasis, where the liver cells and the tiny, tiny bile ducts inside the liver actually leak it straight into the bloodstream. So there's lots of ways that the toxic bile can leak into your bloodstream. Now, your body's cells actually, somebody told me this a while back. So your body's cells can actually make a little teeny bit of bile. So you're going to have some bile in your blood all the time, regardless, because those cells make a teeny little bit of it. You want it to go to the liver and the liver to filter it out. You don't want to be putting more bile from the... Can we get Morley Robbins on? No. I won't have anything to do with Morley Robbins ever at all. Bioavailable copper is pseudoscience, and no. We get lots of Morley Robbins ex-clients, though. You'll have to ask them why. So, here we go. So, Joe, can we switch to the study now? There we go. Okay. So remember, I just told you toxic bile goes into the blood. Well, where does that toxic bile go? After it goes to the blood, first it goes to the kidneys. That's detox priority number 2. So detox priority number 1 is out the gut, out pooping it out. Detox priority number 2 is kidneys. If the liver and the kidneys, the poop, liver to the poop, kidneys to the pee can't handle it, then it goes to the skin. How could we show toxic bile theory happening in terms of skin problems? Well, we could show bile in the skin, right? So let's go here. Dermatitis development increased total cutaneous, that means in the skin, total cutaneous bile acids with an altered profile. Oh, we'll hit that in a second, which may change TGR5 and S1PR2 activity. Moreover, supplementation with bile acid sequestrant, cholestyramine reduced epidermal thickening as well as cutaneous in the skin inflammatory cytokines. So let me translate this into normal person language, okay? Dermatitis, skin problems. We're just going to say generally skin problems. Development increased total bile acids in the skin. There was more bile acids in the skin with skin problems. This is toxic bile theory. With an altered profile. Okay, so when you watch the toxic bile theory videos, there's 2 main problems that happen with toxic bile theory in the blood. There's a change in the recipe of the bile, what the bile is composed of. An altered profile, that's what they mean. The bile acid recipe has changed, and then there's the amount of bile that's leaking into the blood. Either one of them could cause problems. Too much bile, just in general, and the altered bile profile, the changed bile recipe, okay? So they're saying which may change these markers. Moreover, when they took a bile acid binder, sequestrant, it sequesters it. It's a bile acid binder. Cholestyramine, do not take cholestyramine. Just go and look at the side effect lists of cholestyramine and then go look at the side effect lists of activated charcoal. They work the same. Charcoal has, the only real problems you can get with charcoal is taking so much that you clog up your colon. Otherwise, there's no research showing that charcoal is bad for you at all. Okay, but cholestyramine, go look up side effects of cholestyramine. Don't mess with it. So they're saying binding up the bile acids helped the skin problem, reduced the skin thickening, and it reduced inflammation in the skin. Okay, so we're just basically showing toxic bile theory in the skin here right now, okay? This final line, in addition, elevated total bile acids. Wait, isn't that what I just said? How much bile and the recipe of the bile play a significant role in causing dermatitis and skin inflammation. Well, that was toxic bile theory in a nutshell, wasn't it? And then medicine is just going to go, well, what are they going to do? They're going to try to stop the bile flow. Okay, I'm going to blow your mind now. So what do they do to fix skin problems? What if they reduced your liver's ability to make bile? Well, let's go look at a study on retinoic acid. Isotretinoin, Accutane, is a form of retinoic acid, and the bile acid, the secondary bile acid, UDCA, which is related to TUDCA, taurine ursodeoxycholic acid, and what those do to the bile production in the liver. You're going to love this one. Okay. Combination. Is this going to show me my highlights? There we go. Combination of retinoic acid and ursodeoxycholic acid, that's UDCA, attenuates, you got to pay attention here. You got to really get this. Attenuates, reduces liver injury in bile duct ligated rats and human hepatic cells. I want you to understand this. When they do bile duct ligation, they're basically clamping off, they're tying off the common bile duct. So the common bile duct goes from your liver down to your small intestine. And it has other branches along the way. Part of it goes to the pancreas. We went over that, I think, episode or 2 ago. Pancreatitis and bile go together. Bile going up into the pancreas, irritating it. Anyway, gallbladder, if it sits in your gallbladder and it's backed up, that's how you get gallbladder problems. So if you cut off the bile duct, the bile cannot get to the intestines. You have a backup. You're going to start backing up bile into the liver itself and into the bloodstream. It's going to break through the bile ducts, okay? And then it's going to cause inflammation everywhere. They cause inflammation in animals by giving them cholestasis, toxic bile leakage, toxic bile stagnation, toxic bile going places where it's not supposed to go. And then then they do things that they say, oh, we can reduce the inflammation by giving them this. Well, let's use a little logic here before we get into it. If they gave these animals something that increased bile production, would this make their bile duct ligation problem less or more? It would make it a lot more, right? If you plugged up your drain and you had the sink on a drip, it's going to take a long time to overfill the sink and flow out over onto your counter and your floors and all that stuff. But if you turn the sink on full blast and you've blocked off the sink drain, you're going to be leaking a lot more, a lot sooner. So logically, let's say you wanted to take something to help your damaged liver and bile ducts. Temporarily, it'll work. You can shut down your bile production, and it will look good short term. It will cause absolute havoc long term because your liver will want to get rid of the toxins. Your liver will basically, the cells will start bursting open. Bile ducts will explode, and basically disintegrate, and then you leak it everywhere. So let's just go into here. So what is retinoic acid? We just saw that there was more bile in the skin. Okay. What do retinoic acid and UDCA, and therefore by extension TUDCA, do to bile? Let's just read it, and then I'll translate it. To test whether the supplementation of retinoic acid, they're actually talking about all trans retinoic acid here. When they say just retinoic acid, they mean all trans retinoic acid, which is tretinoin, which is retin-A. They're not talking about isotretinoin or Accutane or Accutane here. They're using all trans retinoic acid. Whenever they say just retinoic acid, they mean all trans, okay? Has nothing to do with gender confusion. So, to test whether the supplementation of retinoic acid with UDCA, which is a secondary bile acid, the worst kind of bile acid, but this is what they give people with cirrhosis and other stuff like that, is superior to UDCA alone for treating cholestasis. Male Sprague Dawley rats, males generally make more bile, underwent common bile duct ligation, they blocked it off, for 14 days, and were treated with phosphate-buffered saline, UDCA, all trans retinoic acid, or UDCA and Atra by gavage. I believe that's force feeding them. Treatment with UDCA and Atra. So here's the short-term benefit, what we call the duration paradox, where something looks very good, very short-term, and is a disaster long-term. This was 2 weeks. This is short-term, okay? Treatment with UDCA and Atra substantially improved animal growth rates, significantly reduced liver fibrosis and bile duct proliferation, and nearly eliminated liver necrosis after bile duct ligation. Well, that would be good. That seems good, right? How did they do this? What did they cause? Reductions in the bile salt pool size and liver hydroxyproline content were also seen with treatment with Atra or Atra and UDCA versus PBS and UDCA. Now, I'm going to guess that this is this next part, especially this. Furthermore, Atra and UDCA significantly reduced liver messenger RNA, mRNA. You might have heard about that supposedly in some shots recently. These drugs, toxins, are inhibiting your liver's ability to make cells properly. Okay. Let's come down here. Atra alone or in combination with UDCA greatly repressed cytochrome P450, 7A1 expression in human liver cells. Cytochrome P450s are liver detox pathways. They're saying here that all trans retinoic acid, alone or in combination with UDCA, slowed down your liver's ability to detox. Slowed down the amount of bile you made. It reduced the amount of bile a person makes in humans. And in liver cells, it slowed down the actual detox rate of liver cells. Do you see? Does this all make sense? One of the things that toxins do is they slow down your rate of detox. It's saying it right here. They slow down your bile production. They slow down your detox. It's saying it right here. What do they use all trans retinoic acid for? And what do they use Accutane, 13-cis retinoic acid for? They do it for acne and skin stuff. What did we just show? Skin problems have more bile in them. You could help the problem by messing up the liver. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to fix the liver and fix the toxicity of the bile and have you leak. I mean, imagine you could leak less bile by shutting your liver down, or you could leak less bile by fixing the problems like Lactoferrin can do. You can make your bile less toxic, and you can bind the bile in your gut, like we just talked about, so you can poop it out. This is what we're doing, things to try to help the body to make the bile less toxic and to get rid of it in the best way. They're using poisons to shut down detox. That's what they do. Conclusion, our findings indicate that the addition of retinoic acid to UDCA reduces the bile salt pool size. Pretty straightforward. Let's go to the next one. Now, here's the paper, From Medical Herbalism to Phytotherapy and Dermatology, Back to the Future. So let me just show you that they're trying to affect the bile with herbs even. Herbs are not, no one has an herb deficiency. Okay, so if you're taking an herb, you're using it for a drug-like effect. So they're saying here, Oregon grapefruit has synergistic antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, and bile-stimulating properties, which make the crude extract useful in acne. What is the big active ingredient in Oregon grapefruit? It's berberine. I have shown how toxic berberine is before. Let me see. Why don't I just go find that? So they're saying bile-stimulating properties. So things can either shut down your bile, or often toxic things will increase your bile production for a short period so that it's trying to dump the toxin. It's trying to dump the bitter toxin. Berberine, for those of you who have had it, super bitter, very yellow. What do we talk about things that mark toxins? Bitter and yellow. What is bile? Bitter and yellow. So I'm just showing you here that herbs do a similar thing. It's not always blocking it. Could it be dumping more bile? Sure. Actually, you know what? Let me go find that. Let me go find berberine. I believe it's mutagenic cytotoxic PubMed. Let me go see. Here we go. I believe this is it. No, not that one. I think I have it in the let me go find in the Love Your Liver program. Let me go and I know this study is really important. This paper. Let me go find it. Joe, don't worry about putting it on the screen right now. I should have had this ready. Sorry about that, folks. Let me see if was it this paper? The toxicological? see. That's not it. Anyway, I'm not going to spend any more time finding it here. It's a really rough paper. Well, I got two more I can look at real quick here. The list of things was just, it was rough. It was like that one where I went over UDCA and how rough it was on all that. No, I didn't find it. I'm done. Done looking at that one. Okay. Anyway, berberine. Don't do berberine. If you're doing, the thing you must understand is if you're doing herbs to help a condition, you're using them in a drug-like effect. Can you use them short term? Sure, as long as you understand that they're not fixing the problem. Usually when people do herbs and they stop taking the herbs, their problem goes away. I mean, when they stop taking the herbs, their problem comes back because they didn't fix it. They didn't fix a dang thing. So let's keep going. We got that one. Okay, so let's go into minocycline induced. Did I post that one, Joe? Here, I'll post it. I did. Yes. Okay. So we'll go into this one. Minocycline induced liver injury. So what's the med they like to use often for acne, right? The antibiotic. They like to use tetracycline, right? That's a very common one. Well, tetracycline may cause fatty infiltration of the liver. More recently has been reported to cause intrahepatic cholestasis with bile duct depletion. Your bile ducts are disappearing. Okay? They help your skin with pharma poisons by messing up your liver. So remember, things can do nice looking things short term, but long term they cause problems. Okay? So let's keep going. However, minocycline, a derivative of tetracycline, is not generally recognized to be hepatotoxic. It's not generally recognized to be liver toxic. Oh, but let us tell you about how toxic it is to your liver. We report a series of 6 cases of presumed minocycline-induced liver injury. 5 of these patients had acute hepatic liver illness, whereas 1 had a more prolonged course with histological evidence of chronic hepatitis. In addition, 3 patients demonstrated abnormal anti-nuclear antibody levels, and 1 had positive double-stranded DNA. Minocycline gave these people autoimmunity. Autoimmunity is toxicity, folks. Don't think it's anything else. It's not your body like messing up. You've been poisoned. You have autoimmune thyroid, you've been poisoned. You have double-stranded DNA and ANA, you've been poisoned. And then they give you more poisons. And then they wonder why you never get better. Well, they don't wonder. I mean, I don't know what they think is actually going to happen. They cut, burn, and drug. That's what they do. So let's keep going. Now, I just wanted to go into, so when we talk about bile, this was something I found in my search. But it was really interesting because, we're generally like, okay, you need bile. You need to make bile. You want to make good bile, and you want it to go where it's supposed to go. So, birds of a feather flock together, right? So if bile is good at escorting and carrying toxins around, would it be a weird thing if the video's dragging? Sometimes it's just my internet connection up here where I live. I'm not moving anytime soon, so we just got to deal with it. Bilosomes as nanocarriers. I don't care much for nano stuff. Nanocarriers for the drug and vaccine delivery against gastrointestinal infections, opportunities and challenges. Bilosomes. What are they? Bilosomes are non-ionic, amphiphilic, flexible surfactant vehicles that contain bile salts for the improvement of drug and vaccine delivery. The bilosome's stability and plasticity in the gastrointestinal tract facilitate the efficient carriage of drugs, such as antimicrobial, antiparasitic, and antifungal drugs, vaccines, and bioactive compounds to treat infectious agents. Birds of a feather flock together, right? They love to put poisons with poisons. I don't remember if there's another part to this paper. Now it's not even showing that. Great. Let me just scroll down and see if I marked anything else. I don't think I did. Nope. Okay. So that's bilosome number 1. Wow. Combining bile salts with vaccines and drugs. Good. Let's do this paper. Bilosomes in the context of oral immunization. Development challenges and opportunities. I saw the other one that I marked down here. Conacher et al. From the University of Glasgow were credited with describing bilosomes for the first time as closed, bilayered structures of non-ionic surfactants, additionally incorporating bile salts. Several research groups have verified bilosomes as successful oral vaccine delivery systems. You see why I tell you, don't take UDCA, don't take TUDCA, don't take drugs and vaccines that are bound up with bile salts. You will not ox bile. You are not going to fix a bile problem by taking more bile. That's it. For those of you who don't like the lagging or whatever, if I'm lagging, just listen to me, because you can go back and find all the studies. We put them by name down in the info below. Okay, bilosomes, the non-ionic surfactant vehicles, NISVs, additionally incorporating bile salts, represent a new form of vesicular carrier. Vesicular means almost like if you want to think of a cyst, it's like an enclosed ball of stuff. Okay. Functioning as adjuvants, they stimulate the immune system in a bad way. What are other adjuvants they use in vaccines? Aluminum and mercury. Oh, and they've done lots of research studying retinoic acid, the active form of vitamin A, as a vaccine adjuvant. Aluminum, mercury, bile salts, retinoic acid. This is not a good group to be in, okay? Bilosomes are effective adjuvants comparable with Frun's complete adjuvant, but with an improved side effect profile and superior in performance to alum. Frun's adjuvant, they inject that into rat paws to give them bad inflammation. They inject it into rat paws and other things like that to give them really bad inflammation. That's where the bile salts, that's like birds of a feather. This should be scary. An improved side effect profile. I don't know if that means that it's worse or better. Superior in performance to aluminum. Don't ever let anybody on a deodorant package fool you. Alum, A-L-U-M, is aluminum. You buy those crystal deodorant salts, the crystal deodorant sticks, and it says aluminum free, but then on the back it'll say potassium alum. I can tell you those show up on a hair test as aluminum. When people stop using the crystal deodorant sticks, their aluminum goes down. They say it's not aluminum. It just happens to be spelled exactly like aluminum, and it shows up on a hair test as aluminum. So it's aluminum. Don't believe them. So we're not even through this. So this is all connecting the bile theory, toxic bile theory to it. So now let's just go through vitamin A. Okay, so here we go. Did I get that last link, Joe? Now, I could find almost nothing on serum retinol and acne. Oh, Saeed asked if I could repeat the above about crystal deodorant sticks. When you look at the ingredients of any deodorant, if you see the word alum, alum, anywhere in the ingredients, it contains aluminum. You have to understand anything that is an antiperspirant, anti-sweating. It is stopping you from sweating by clogging your pores, your sweat glands. One of the best things they found to do that is aluminum. Potassium alum, which is often the salt that is in crystal deodorant sticks, is aluminum. I do not recommend it. It absolutely is aluminum. It absolutely shows up on hair tests. That's what I'm saying about that. Need to share the last URL? Okay, Joe, I'll get on that. Let me find it. Bilosomes. Okay, so there we go. Let's do this. There's the Bilosomes. Let's go to the vitamin A now, so I don't spend too much time on all this stuff. Okay. I just want to show you, for those of you out there who still refuse to believe that Finskit may not have aluminum chlorohydrate, I'm just saying if you see alum in it, it has aluminum in it. That's what I'm saying. I don't have time to go over the ingredients of all of them. I'm just saying if you see alum and they say no aluminum, they're lying, because there's alum and that's aluminum. So this paper, so vitamin A, I want you to understand, if you eat vitamin A, carotenoids, beta carotene, it turns into retinoids. Somebody on Twitter again was doing the old carrots don't contain vitamin A. Oh, come on, y'all. There is no retinoids without carotenoids. Either you convert it into retinoids or the animal you eat converted it into retinoids. It all started as carotenoids, okay? If you eat provitamin A, carotenoids, beta carotene is the biggest one, or you eat retinoids, you're going to turn it into things like retin-A in your blood and Accutane in your blood. All trans-retinoic acid, ATRA, and 13-cis-retinoic acid. So let's just verify that again here. A sensitive and specific method for measurement of multiple retinoids in human serum in blood with UHPLC MSMS. Okay. Retinol, vitamin A, circulates at 1 to 4 micromolar concentration and is easily measured in serum. Gosh, why do they do that test then? Why do you think they do serum retinol? Because it's easy. Why do they avoid testing retinaldehyde, retinoic acids? Because they're hard. And if you saw how much retinoic acid you had in your blood, and you'd be like, why do I have Accutane in my blood? And why do I have retin-A in my blood? It's because you eat vitamin A. But they don't want to tell you that, because people will go, well, Accutane's a horrible medication that causes many, many, many side effects. Oh, now you're going to get it. Okay. So, however, retinol is biologically inactive. Okay. Again, for the people in the back, you need retinol to do stuff. Retinol does nothing except be toxic. Free retinol in your blood, super duper toxic. That's why you make retinol binding protein. And why your body hides retinol inside of cholesterol. Why do you think everybody has super high cholesterol these days? Why does Grant Jenneru have the cholesterol, as his doctor said, of a 5-year-old? Why does people's cholesterol go up as they age? Why does their vitamin A go up as they age? Why does their copper go up as they age? Why does their cholesterol generally go up as they age? Because they're becoming more and more toxic. Okay? Why do they only measure retinol? Because it's easy. And it would scare people's pants off if they saw that they had Accutane flowing around in their blood. Well, you do. Here you go. Its metabolite, retinoic acid, is believed to be responsible for biological effects of vitamin A, and hence the measurement of retinol concentrations is of limited value. Wait, let's repeat that one. Measurements of retinol concentrations is of limited value. Do I measure serum retinol for my clients? Yes, I do. To try to keep track of it. It's the only good measurement we have. It's the only one. That doesn't mean it's great. It doesn't mean it helps. It's of limited value, and they say this over and over in the research. But then they use serum retinol as a justification if somebody has vitamin A deficiency or not, and they know it's not true. So they measured retinoids in serum samples from 20 healthy men. 20 healthy men. See, in the fed state, measured concentrations were, let me highlight this. The measured concentrations were 3.1 nanomolar for atra. Not much on the 9-cis. This is alitretinoin. This is chemotherapy. Look up Ali, alitretinoin. Alitretinoin. This is chemo. This is straight up chemo that they give people as a retinoic acid. 5.3 nanomolar for 13-cis RA. 13-cis retinoic acid. This is Accutane. So healthy men have retin-A floating in their blood, Accutane floating in their blood. It's 0.4 for 913 dicis retinoic acid. I haven't even heard of that one. And 17.2 nanometers for 4-oxo-13 cis retinoic acid. So this is just another form of Accutane, just with a 4-oxo group stuck on it. The concentrations of the retinoids were not significantly different when measured after an overnight fast. 11 cis retinoic acid and 4-hydroxy retinoic acid were not detected in human serum. The high sensitivity of the MS-MS method combined with the UHPLC separation power allowed detection of endogenous, made from within your body, 9-cis retinoic acid, alitretinoin, and 4-oxo atra. This is tretinoin, retin-A bound to a 4-oxo for the first time in human serum. For the first time in human serum, 2012. Gosh, how many decades of vitamin A research is absolute garbage now? That they just started figuring this out 10 years ago. Okay. And Nate said they also use tretinoin for chemo. They use Accutane for chemo. You know, like I was saying, birds of a feather flock together. Do you know what they like to use in chemo when they use retinoic acids? They like to combine all trans retinoic acid with arsenic trioxide. They combine vitamin A with arsenic. Sounds delightful, doesn't it? So anyway, if you eat vitamin A, you have retin-A, which has been shown to kill veterans in the big skin cancer study that they applied it to their faces. Too many of them were dying. They stopped the study. And Accutane. And if you haven't seen the sexual side effect lists of Accutane and the warnings about pregnancy, and they make women sign a paper that they're going to be, they're going to protect themselves from sex because Accutane causes birth defects so badly. And there's other stuff like black box warnings about, depression and suicide and stuff like that. It's so bad. Why do people start to feel happier on this program? Because they're getting this crap out of them. They're making less of it because we're making them less toxic. Okay, so let's keep going. I want to show you. Remember how I talked about the bile recipe as changing how people's problems showed up? Vitamin A in skin and serum. Studies of acne vulgaris, atopic dermatitis, remember that's allergic skin reactions, ichthyosis vulgaris, and lichen planus. Okay, so you remember how the recipe, you can have different recipes of vitamin A toxicity. Joe's just post the link every time. Anyway, the average retinol concentration was increased in lichen planus lesions and decreased in both acne skin, involved and uninvolved, and in lesions of atopic dermatitis. Here's what you must understand. Remember how I just went over, you can have vitamin A floating around as carotenoids, retinol, retinaldehyde, which I think is a big problem, and they never measure that, and retinoic acids. What did they measure in this study? Retinol, because it's easy, in the skin. That's it. And then they're like, oh, so some of you who watch this are going to make, some of you who still think vitamin A is good, you're going to look at it, oh, obviously I need to take more retinol. That's not what this is saying. It's saying different skin issues are caused by different recipes of your bile and different recipes of vitamin A. Okay. So then, of course, they try to say that it's from like a lack of vitamin A in the blood. That's a bunch of garbage. So now look at this. Here's more of the recipe. The mean dehydroretinol. Well, nobody ever talks about dehydroretinol. What is this stuff? It was the first time I had seen it. The mean dehydroretinol concentration was markedly increased in lesions of atopic dermatitis and lichen planus. So look at mean retinol concentration in lichen planus so retinol was increased in lichen planus. Dehydroretinol was increased in lichen planus. But wait, retinol was decreased in atopic dermatitis, but dehydroretinol was increased in atopic dermatitis. The recipe changes the presentation of the skin problem. Just like you can take flour and sugar and eggs and make different ratios of it and make all sorts of different baked goods. Not that I'm advising that. I'm just saying, if you understand cooking, baking, you can take those things and do them in different combinations and come out with wildly different end products. You have different toxins and bile acids coming out of the skin, and you can get wildly different skin issues. That's what they're saying here. Okay. Let's keep going. Another paper on psoriasis and vitamin A. So again, they're looking at retinol, dehydroretinol, and carotenoids. More on the recipe here. When we are talking about, which are we talking about here? Plaque psoriasis. The dehydroretinol concentration was higher in the patient's involved skin than their uninvolved skin. So it's not a vitamin A deficiency. And healthy control skin. So it was higher in those with plaque psoriasis's involved skin than the uninvolved skin, and also higher than healthy control skin, which is lower than, so here's 237 dehydroretinol in the plaque psoriasis skin, 94 in their other normal uninvolved skin, and healthy controls only had 70 in their skin. Okay. I don't think there was anything else down here. Nope. Okay. This is just a search. There's nothing on serum retinol and acne. It's weird. It's just they don't show it much. Okay. The effect of isotretinoin, this is Accutane, on insulin resistance, pre-diabetes, diabetes, and adipose cytokine levels in acne vulgaris patients. So they looked at retinol binding protein 4. Now let me tell you what retinol binding protein 4 is. It is a binding protein that binds to retinol. Imagine that protects you from it. Everyone else out there likes to say that, oh, it's gonna it delivers the vitamin A to places. I get that one 2.9. No, I did. Sorry, let me put this one in there. I missed this one too. Let me see. This one was 2. Yeah, got it. Okay. So retinol binding protein 4. It's been said in studies to be a surrogate marker of how much vitamin A is in the blood. Okay, so they're saying you can measure retinol binding protein 4 as a marker of retinol in the blood. But remember, we were just talking about the recipe of vitamin A. You can have vitamin A hiding in other forms that they don't measure for. This is why it's such a cluster. With 5 months of Accutane treatment, active vitamin A. This is, remember, I just showed in 20 healthy men not on Accutane, they had Accutane in their blood. Okay. With 5 months of Accutane treatment, isotretinoin treatment, higher HOMA-IR levels, HOMA-IR. This is a marker of insulin resistance. The higher it is, the more insulin resistance you have. And I've shown this in the diabetes threads on Twitter, and I think the diabetes thread, the diabetes live stream I did. Higher HOMA-IR values were found. Isotretinoin is making people insulin resistant heading towards diabetes. Isotretinoin therapy maintained higher average retinol binding protein 4 levels. So it's increasing vitamin A levels generally in the system. while it's making them diabetic. I've done, I think, a live stream and a Twitter thread about how vitamin A is associated with diabetes. They give people vitamin A and they watch their insulin resistance go up. Okay. All data suggests that 5 months of isotretinoin therapy in acne vulgaris patients causes insulin resistance. And I don't know if you've seen, but they associate insulin resistance with acne a lot. Okay. So let's keep going. Let me get the link first so I'll remember. Assessment of ADMA, IMA, and vitamin A and E levels in patients with acne vulgaris. Remember, they're measuring, so I want you to see, when you see this, vitamin A plasma levels decreased as the disease became more severe. What type of vitamin A do they measure in the blood? Serum retinol, that's it. Or plasma retinol. They don't measure in the other forms. So it doesn't mean there's a deficiency. They just said retinol is not the active form in the other's paper, right? So just because in the blood there's less retinol doesn't mean that there's less in the liver. Oh, we're going to get into that on the copper one where they say things aren't coming out of the liver. The disease became more severe. So what if they're converting the vitamin A into a more toxic form that the scientists just aren't measuring for? Isn't that what I'm showing? So there's that. Now let's keep going. Go here. Oral isotretinoin therapy in severe acne, drug and vitamin A concentrations in serum and skin. So you remember, we already showed that isotretinoin, Accutane, or well, all trans retinoic acid, we showed that it slowed down bile production in the liver. By contrast, the retinol level in the skin, epidermis, increased by an average of 53%. They gave them isotretinoin, Accutane, which is retinoic acid. Retinoic acid cannot convert backwards into retinol or retinaldehyde. It cannot go backwards. So any effect it has, it's not the actual Accutane turning back into those things. It's slowing down your detox, as I already showed you. By contrast, the retinol level in the epidermis increased by an average of 53%, and the dihydroretinol level decreased by 79%. You see? It's just affecting the recipe. As a result of 3 months of treatment, both changes were reversible. The results suggest that isotretinoin therapy interferes with the endogenous vitamin A metabolism in the skin. Let me translate endogenous vitamin A metabolism in the skin. Your vitamin A detox in the skin. How many ways do we have to show that this interferes, that it's blocking your detox pathways? Changes in plasma cholesterol and triglyceride levels after treatment with oral isotretinoin, a prospective study. Now, I've shown the link many times from my research forum. Vitamin A increases triglycerides. Just recently, this weekend, I found research showing that vitamin A, retinol esters, yet another form of vitamin A, can be found in VLDL, LDL, HDL, albumin. Your body tries to hide this stuff from causing problems everywhere it can. So generally, if, as we tend to think here, excess cholesterol is a detox marker, if high cholesterol is, Grant and I were talking about this for a while, that LDL cholesterol may be a good marker of vitamin A toxicity. Maybe. It doesn't matter. None of them are good. I mean, you can't just look at one. You have to look at a bunch of them. And then the simplest thing is you look at symptoms as people avoid vitamin A. Are they getting better? Oh, well, then I think we know, right? So here we go. Maximum isotretinoin-induced elevations in plasma triglycerides and cholesterol levels were 67% and 16% respectively. Additional maximal changes included very low density lipoprotein. That's very bad cholesterol. increases of 56%, low density lipoprotein cholesterol increases of 22%. That's the bad cholesterol, right? And high density lipoprotein decreases, good cholesterol going down, of 10% from pre-treatment values. Chronic increases in plasma cholesterol levels, increases in LDL, and decreases in HDL cholesterol levels may predispose subjects to premature atherosclerosis. That's heart disease. Folks, if you took Accutane, or you're a caring parent who was misled by mainstream medicine into giving your child this poison, we can fix the damage. It takes a while and it takes focused work, but I do believe that this damage can be fixed. You can, people can, however any of you came here, the past in a certain way, the past doesn't matter. Your liver is injured. You are leaking bile into your bloodstream. That is causing your symptoms. The bile acid recipe, the toxins in your bile, the nutrient deficiencies you have. This is what you're dealing with now. The story behind it almost doesn't matter once you know what to do with your liver. That's in the Love Your Liver program. That's the do-it-yourself part. That's at members.nutritiondetective.com. And then if you want to work with me or Nathan doing the hair testing and the blood testing so that we can figure out your deficiencies and get a better idea of your toxicities, that's available too. So that's what we do. We're definitely not sitting here. There are people out there telling you to eat a bunch of liver to try to fix your vitamin A metabolism. No. Taking in more vitamin A will change the recipe, but it doesn't fix your liver. It makes your liver worse. And then when all the stuff comes back later, you're going to be wondering, why did it all come back? It's the duration paradox. It's using one poison to suppress another poison. There's just no answer in that. You ever hear the saying, the hair of the dog that bit you, right? So when people are hungover, in the morning, they might have a drink to help reduce their hangover symptoms. It's the same thing. That's what they're doing for you. You're vitamin A toxic. They want to give you vitamin A. You're hungover. You feel bad from alcohol. They're going to give you a drink. It's using one poison to suppress another poison. Don't do it. So, isotretinoin treatment of severe acne affects the endogenous, from within the body, concentration of vitamin A in sebaceous glands, sebum glands. This is going to be really important later. So just remember, like what did they say isotretinoin does? It reduces the sebum production. Well, oral isotretinoin markedly increases retinol levels and decreases dehydroretinol levels, changes the recipe again, in the skin while on therapy. The effect is more pronounced in sebaceous glands. Then in epidermis and dermis. Maybe that change of dehydroretinol to retinol reduces sebum production. So you get less of the vanity acne expression. If you can't get rid of that poison through your skin, where's it going to go, folks? It's going to float around your blood and cause you more health problems. Gosh, does isotretinoin Accutane cause all sorts of health problems? It sure does. Does this make sense? The increased retinol levels probably reflect a metabolic interference with endogenous vitamin A, slowing down detox. How many ways do I have to show this? Since isotretinoin cannot be converted to retinol in vivo, remember how I said it can't go backwards? Previous studies have shown that dehydroretinol accumulates in hyperproliferative keratinizing skin lesions. And so its reduction with isotretinoin therapy may relate to a reduction in cell proliferation or to dedifferentiation. It's just affecting the detox process, changing the recipe. That's all it's doing. And finally, as we're going to get into with zinc deficiency, Serum zinc and retinol binding protein in acne. You need to know that there's two main things that will raise retinol binding protein. So this is a little complicated. Patients with severe acne were found to have lower levels of retinol binding protein than either patients with mild acne or healthy subjects of the same age. They're converting the retinol into other forms. And the other thing is that studies consistently show that a low protein diet or a low zinc diet will both result in not enough RBP being made. So what that means is that your liver will not dump vitamin A into the bile to try to get rid of it because it can't protect you from it. What happens in the research, I've shown this before, when people start eating more protein or they start taking more zinc or getting more zinc. Now remember, animal protein is the highest source of zinc in food. So people who do not, especially these third world countries where they like to say that they're low in vitamin A, what do you think like third world countries are not eating a lot of? Meat. So do they not get enough protein and do they not get enough zinc? Gosh, what do they want us to start eating? Vegan, bugs, soy. It's all part of the plan. So anyway, a lack of retinol binding protein 4 means that vitamin A is getting stuck in the liver. It's not coming out. And then when people start getting enough protein or zinc, it starts coming out. That's what it means. And also, if you don't have enough RBP4 to retinol, you have more free retinol unbound, and that's super duper toxic, and it causes more problems. So that's the vitamin A connection. These next ones are going to go faster. Let me see. Okay, copper. This is the big, there wasn't a lot of stuff on copper with acne. Hold on one sec. At least we're getting down to single studies now. But this paper had such an amazing, hold on, let me get the right link here. Okay. Somebody tell me if that link works to open up the PDF. So this paper, another apologetics paper, but then they say something very good in it. Significance of serum copper levels in patients with acne vulgaris. So basically in the start of it, they say, oh, we see low serum copper sometimes in acne vulgaris. But let me read the, okay, link worked. Okay. Let's read this very important paragraph here. This applies to vitamin A. This applies to Finsk. I've talked about this. Zinc can be overdone. So if you start loading up on zinc and you have no idea what you're doing, I mean, technically we call it testing, not guessing. We want to be testing, not guessing. If you're guessing, yes, zinc toxicity is a legit thing. People can take too much. Be aware. Okay, here we go. Sherman et al. Estimated serum copper levels in 73 Iraqi individuals with acne vulgaris and in 42 healthy individuals as a control group. The study revealed that there was an increase in the level of copper in the patients with acne in comparison with the control group. They mentioned some other fun things here. Using estrogen-releasing birth control or a copper intrauterine device, IUD, can lead to copper toxicity. They just said birth control can lead to copper toxicity. Ladies, if your health is bad or you are gained a huge amount of weight on birth control, like these are all related to birth control pills, absolutely. Birth control pills are poison. Save your daughters from this poison. When more estrogen is released into the body, wait, pay attention here. When more estrogen is released into the body, it can increase copper retention in the kidneys. Your kidneys are storing more copper. Anybody who tells you your kidneys and your liver don't store toxins is lying, or they're just misinformed. Excess copper then builds up in the liver. Key phrase here. Excess copper then builds up in the liver, preventing the liver from detoxifying the blood properly. What do I say here? As you become more toxic, you get worse at detoxing. Let me repeat that. As you become more toxic, you become worse at detoxing. This means that whatever amount of toxins you're exposed to, you can become toxic faster. It'd be just like you get too much hair in your shower drain and the water starts draining slower and you start building up more water. It's the same shower head turned to the same setting, but you build up water faster because you can't drain it out as fast. Does that make sense? So let's keep going. So they just said excess copper builds up. You can't detoxify your liver properly. This can then lead to poor mineral absorption, deficiencies, and toxins into the bloodstream, toxic leaky bile. And one of the outcomes is chronic acne. In addition, copper levels rise in response to stress. You dump bile when you are stressed. Your bile contains copper. It leaks into the blood. You get higher copper levels. And then you get more anxious and depressed and irritable because copper's a toxic metal. In addition, copper levels rise in response to stress. Oh, sorry, I read that. The results of our previous, Joe wants me to zoom in. Oh, wait, wrong zoom. Oh, where'd it go? There it is. Okay. The results of our present study shows that the mean average of serum copper in patients and controls were within the reference ranges, because the reference ranges suck, and that the patients had lower serum copper than control. So now their study shows lower serum copper than controls. Thus, acne patients showed a decrease in copper levels. Other contributing factors for the occurrence of acne in the patients enrolled in our study could either be due to stress among the adolescent girls or due to sudden upsurge of estrogen in the onset of puberty. So, copper itself may or may not be a huge issue with acne, but you can see how it could be high, stress, birth control, copper IUDs. But you also see how they describe, this whole paper talks about low blood copper in acne. The whole paper talks about it. But then all of a sudden they go, well, these guys found high copper in acne. Here's how that might be happening. As they get toxic, they slow down their detox, which is exactly what I say. I just wish I didn't have to find all these different papers to show the same concepts that we go over each week. So we got that one. Now, that was that one. Okay. So another paper. Where is this? Where's my mark? No. Okay. Thought I had this marked. Or was this one I was going to go over later? I'll just hit it right now, since I'm here. One of the deficiencies that we talk about, let's see if it got it. Nope. It's because that disappears. One of the things that we go over a lot is magnesium deficiency. We're just going to hit this one real quick. Serum magnesium concentration, blood magnesium concentration was significantly lower in the severe acne group compared with mild and moderate acne group. We use tons of topical magnesium in this program. Topical magnesium helps fix your high calcium problem, which leads to blood sugar problems and thyroid problems. Magnesium helps to just everything run. Topical magnesium. So I think I may have this paper in the wrong spot, but sue me, we're live. So let's go over this one. I wonder if, I think I may have moved these to other, something else in here I wanted to go over. Oh, there was just another one in here where, oh yeah, another thing on zinc. We're going to go over more zinc, but the data obtained from this study showed that the mean values, the average values of serum levels of zinc, blood zinc, was significantly decreased in severe acne group compared with controls. You see copper problems. What is the biggest copper antagonist? Zinc. What do you need to protect you against vitamin A? Zinc. Okay. Acne-related dietary supplements. Yeah, these are a little out of order. Did I put this one in there? 3, 2. Yeah, there we go. So I thought this was really interesting because I have my suspicions about certain B vitamins. And we don't use iodine in our programs generally, unless we know somebody lives in an area where there is endemic, native to that area, iodine deficiency. And we use very little just to get them back up to a normal level, and then they don't have to use it anymore. If you're using megadose iodine, you are damaging your thyroid. If you're using potassium iodide, you are absolutely ruining your thyroid. It will not get better until you stop using that garbage. They use it to shut down thyroids. So don't take it thinking it's going to fix your thyroid. Vitamins B6 and B12, iodine, and whey. Acne linked to dietary supplements, or some might say a toxin, generally resolves following supplement discontinuation. Lesions associated with high-dose vitamin B6. B6 is an aldehyde and an alcohol. Pyridoxine is an alcohol. You can look it up. Pyridoxal ends in Al. Pyridoxal 5-phosphate, the active form, is an aldehyde. Pyridoxaldehyde. Anytime you see the Al at the end of a word, it typically means that it's an aldehyde. They just cut off the dehyde so they could hide it from you, right? B12 is cobalt molecules are toxic. B12 also has an azole part in the amine, the big cobalt amine. In the amine group, there's a huge azole group, which is azoles slow down your ALDH. They slow down your detox. High-dose B6 and B12 supplements have been described as monomorphic, and although pathogenesis is unknown, a number of hypotheses have been proposed because it can cause acne. Iodine-related acne may be related to the use of kelp supplements and has been reported as monomorphic inflammatory pustules on the face and upper trunk. Whey protein supplements derived from milk and used for bodybuilding are associated with papulonodular acne involving the trunk and sometimes the face. Well, we don't use dairy. And generally, we don't use iodine. And if somebody was on B6 and B12 because they felt it helped, they should be on the minimal amounts to get the maximum benefit. And they should, if they're doing things right with our program, they should be able to reduce their use over time and not be reliant on them to help their symptoms by most likely suppressing their detox. Joe, is iodine in the table salt a problem? Generally, that's going to be potassium iodide. I wouldn't eat it. We have several rules for salt. Bright white in color, single ingredient, one ingredient. So all of a sudden, if it's got potassium iodide in it, that's not what we want. Jacobson salt. We actually, in the inner circle last week, we went over a video about how they process their salt. And it's all water. Water and boiling and just other stuff that they're doing. It's very simple stuff. And they have the cleanest salt that I've seen on the market, especially to buy in the US. If you're over in Europe, you might be able to buy some Icelandic salt. There are some other good brands, but we go over that in the program. I do not use potassium iodide if it can be avoided. So let's keep going. Did I get these in the wrong order? Hold on. Let me look back on this. What are we doing? Yeah, let's go back to this one. Okay. This is a huge paper on, let me get the link. Actually, this is an absolutely huge paper on acne. This is what I was talking about. You're going to see that the Love Your Liver program, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to want to avoid, absolutely avoid any of the supplement suggestions that they give in this article. But nearly everything else is in line with what we're doing. Okay, so let's go. Acne vulgaris and the intake of selected dietary nutrients, a summary of information. The reason why we avoid the supplements, that's the duration paradox. They see effects, positive effects in short-term studies. Long-term, it's a disaster. Acne vulgaris, its development is influenced by both external and internal factors. So what you're exposed to on the outside and what you put in your body on the inside, whether it's good or bad. Let's go. Let's see it. Please, I hope this shows up. Wait, let's do this. Let's go there. Okay, so we skipped ahead. want you to pay attention to this part, and I'm going to review it. A 10-week dietary intervention was conducted in which involved adherence to a diet with a low glycemic load. So not tons of carbs. Doesn't mean none. It means not tons of carbs. Rich in vegetables, fruit, beans, fish, barley, and whole wheat bread. Okay, so how does this relate to what we tend to advocate here? Vegetables are high in fiber. Low glycemic index, low glycemic load. Well, you're going to see the foods that they talk about in terms of these things, but low glycemic load tends to go with high fiber foods. Fruit has soluble fiber in it. The best ones are apples and pears and maybe even bananas. Beans, high soluble fiber. Barley, high soluble fiber. Fish, we don't do because fish are full of microplastics and pharmaceuticals and mercury. And if you're still eating fish and shellfish, you're eating things that are swimming in, marinating in, breathing, eating whatever the toxins are in the water. Okay, so if you don't trust the oceans, you shouldn't trust the fish that marinate all day in that stuff. They are made of that stuff. And then whole wheat bread, that's another high fiber food. Histopathological skin examination revealed a reduction in inflammation, a decrease in the size of sebaceous glands, as well as lower expression of sterol regulating element binding protein 1 and interleukin 8. So they're seeing improvements on this generally high fiber, high soluble fiber diet approach. So let's keep going down. Oh, here's just a little urban legend confirmation. A study conducted among 57 patients with acne vulgaris showed that they consumed more chocolate than the control group. Chocolate's high in toxic metals. Chocolate's high in copper. Chocolate's high in polyphenols, which are toxic. The plant antioxidants, those are toxic. Phenol is toxic. Polyphenol is toxic. And then I'm not sure, somebody remind me if if chocolate's high in oxalates too. I think it is, isn't it? So yeah, not good. So just another thing on chocolate. So, I mean, people ask me, Doc, what do you do for acne? And I'm like, well, the first simple things you do, as you'll see in this paper, get off the dairy, get off the chocolate, get off the sugar, and get some zinc. Okay, Joe reminded me chocolate has oxalate. Okay, so the effects of a low glycemic load, LDL, that doesn't make sense, was confirmed in 3 other studies. The interventions lasted for 12 months. So that first one was 10 weeks, and now we got 12 months. Doesn't mean it all went away. It means it's better. So let's talk about low glycemic index and low glycemic load. Let's see what they mention here. People with acne vulgaris should choose products with a low glycemic index, such as, let's see which LYL products we talk about here. Cooked chickpeas, they're a bean. Apples, the highest fruit in soluble fiber. Baked potatoes, it's a nightshade, not great to eat all the time, but it is generally high in soluble fiber and potassium, things that we talk about here a lot. Cooked buckwheat, a whole grain that's high in fiber. Oatmeal bran bread. Oats are about the highest food in soluble fiber. Bran has more insoluble fiber to it. Low glycemic loads, foods such as, they do list broad beans here, another bean. Should also be included in the diet. So let's go into fiber. They talk specifically about fiber here. Individuals who followed a low glycemic index diet for 12 weeks showed a greater reduction in acne vulgaris lesion counts. Less acne, more fiber. Fiber-rich foods include vegetables. They call white beans a vegetable. Okay, beans. Again, fruit. Example, dried plums, which are prunes, which we talk about in the Love Your Liver program as being something that you could use to help your bowels move if you need it. Prunes are a little high in carotenoids, vitamin A, but when we talk about, every food is a mix of good and bad. Pooping out your bile is really, really important. So actually, if people were to have, a couple of dried plums, aka prunes, to help them poop, I think that's worth the little bit of vitamin A in it. We're always making deals. Okay. And cereals like oat flakes. Gosh, no soluble fiber there, right? That's sarcasm. Proteins. Let's talk about protein. First of all, Love Your Liver program. We're huge on red meat protein, red meats in general, and poultry, turkey, chicken, that kind of stuff. Now, Joe, what causes prunes to help people poop is the sorbitol. It's a sugar alcohol in there that we don't absorb real well, but it helps trigger pooping. Proteins, let's go. Oh, they mentioned Lactoferrin here. If you haven't seen the Nutrition Detective Lactoferrin, it is our best-selling product next to the Keystone Minerals. We're going to go over all the good stuff they say about lactoferrin and acne as we go. Proteins with antimicrobial, antifungal, antibacterial, and antiviral activities such as lactoferrin are also found in milk. So they're trying to say good things about milk first. I want you to know before we get into this, when they start saying bad things about dairy and acne, milk contains vitamin A in the fat. It contains vitamin A in the whey. It contains vitamin A in the casein. It contains 4 times as much calcium as human milk. So we don't want that much calcium. We're not designed for that much calcium. And then it also contains vitamin D. I don't suggest eating vitamin D by mouth, whether it's in milk or whether it's rat poison supplements. D3 cholecalciferol, which is sold as rat poison if you did not know. They kill rats and mice with rodent baits made of vitamin D3, and it often sends dogs to the animal hospitals, the dogs who eat the rat baits. So let's get into milk, because they're going to blame other things other than the vitamin A and the vitamin D and the calcium. Consumption of milk has the same health consequences as the intake of high glycemic index products described above, like they're talking about acne. Milk is a growth food. Milk is designed for the mother to give to the baby in the earliest stages of its life when it's growing the fastest. It is not meant to be for adults. When you've stopped growing, here's a saying I have, if you're done growing up, what's the only other direction you can grow? Okay, it's out. Why would you drink a growth food as an adult who doesn't want to be gigantic? Okay? If you want to be normal size, don't drink milk. So what do they blame it on? Steroid compounds present in milk, i.e. androgens, reduced forms of steroids or non-steroidal growth factors contribute to the comedogenicity, the pore clogging effect of milk. Could that be true? I told you hormones put a huge load on the liver. So you're drinking milk, you're drinking a hormone cocktail, you're drinking tons of vitamin A, you're drinking tons of calcium, you're drinking vitamin D rat poison. It's not just the hormones. Acne vulgaris lesions have been observed in athletes and bodybuilders who use whey and casein-rich protein supplements. What did I tell you was in the whey and the casein? Vitamin A. You've seen, any of those of you who know bodybuilder types, they will put down scoops and scoops and scoops of whey protein a day. It takes, they're doing a lot of it, is what I'm saying. A positive correlation between the consumption of whole and skimmed milk and the severity of acne vulgaris lesions was confirmed in a retrospective study conducted on a group of 47,355 women. Deterioration in skin condition was also caused by the consumption of other dairy products such as cottage cheese, cream cheese, and milk drinks. The relationship between milk consumption and occurrence of acne vulgaris was proven in a large prospective study. Moreover, other studies showed significantly higher consumption of milk and chocolate and cheese in patients with acne vulgaris. A relationship has also been demonstrated between whey protein consumption and acne vulgaris exacerbation. The old wives' tale of dairy causing acne is absolutely true. Okay? I just told you why. I'll repeat it again. The hormones in the milk, the vitamin A in the fat, in the casein, in the whey. Then there's the vitamin D rat poison in it. And then there's the excessive amount of calcium. And if you didn't know, vitamin A and vitamin D cause calcium metabolism problems in your body. So you put gasoline on the fire when you drink dairy. Okay. Fats. I'm not going to hit this part right because they do talk about saturated fats. Well, I'll hit it a little bit. Saturated fatty acids, palmitic, stearic, or myristic acid. One of the ways you store vitamin A in your liver is you bind it to fatty acid esters. Do you know that of all the retinol esters, of all the different types of fats that you store vitamin A within your liver, palmitic retinol palmitate is like 60% of it. You're storing vitamin A with saturated fatty acids for the majority of it. Okay. Saturated fatty acids, e.g. palmitic, stearic, or myristic acid, including trans-isomeric acids, the main sources of which are hydrogenated vegetable oils found in margarine, confectionery, or fast food, have a negative effect on acne vulgaris affected skin. How do you avoid a lot of fat-related problems? You don't eat added fats. It's quite simple. Added fats are not natural in any way. So vitamins, oh gosh, just avoid this part, please. They're going to try to tell you that you need vitamin A, you need vitamin D, you need vitamin E, a disaster. Don't do it. So they talk about here some other vitamins. On the other hand, again, dietary supplementation with high doses of vitamin B12 is suggestive of worsening acne vulgaris lesions, especially in women. A case report of a 37-year-old woman with acne vulgaris-like eruptions after intramuscular injection, a B12 shot of vitamin B12, 2 days, 1,000 micrograms of vitamin B12. That's not much. That's a normal B12 shot. 2 B12 shots. The lesions appeared on the chest, back, face, and neck within 12 hours after the second dose of the vitamin. There's something about B12 that we don't understand. There's another paper that showed like when there was really hot, there was more tendency towards solid tumors in people who had really high B12 in their blood. There's something about B12 that we really don't understand. I mean, I understand that it's a toxic metal, cobalt, bound to three parts of an amine molecule. And when I broke down each part of that amine molecule, all of them were generally considered toxic. So I'm going toxic, 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 toxic. What's going on with this? We don't understand it. That's what I'll say. Here we go. More B12. Based on the research, the patient was diagnosed with vitamin B12-induced acne vulgaris-like eruptions. Velarde et al. Described the case of 5 women aged 37, 32, 62, 29, and 21 years old who developed acne vulgaris-like lesions caused by vitamin B12 during intramuscular or oral vitamin B12 therapy within 1 week to 5 months. The patients began to develop facial lesions in the form of papules and pustules, 3 of them also on the neck, upper chest, back, and arms. Minerals. This should be simple. Zinc and selenium. Gosh, do we ever talk about those? We never talk about zinc and selenium, do we? Zinc and selenium are the most important minerals that support acne vulgaris therapy. A study by Ozaguz et al. Revealed that acne vulgaris patients displayed significantly lower serum concentrations of zinc compared to the control group. Okay, don't worry about their sources. Selenium regulates sebum production. Oh, sebum is a problem in acne, right? Selenium regulates it. Oh, that sounds pretty important. Is selenium deficiency everywhere? Yeah. And has anti-inflammatory properties. Forget about the antioxidant garbage that they say about selenium. Okay. And no, Brazil nuts do not work well for selenium replenishment these days. There's hardly any selenium in Brazil nuts at all anymore. Probiotics and prebiotics. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. If you are unhealthy, you have a gut dysbiosis problem. If you have a gut dysbiosis problem, it's taking your toxic bile problem and making it worse. And then the toxic bile problem, as it goes up to your liver, then it damages your liver. I went over this last week in the SIBO video. It's a loop. It's a vicious cycle. The liver makes the toxic bile goes to the gut dysbiosis or makes a gut dysbiosis. The gut changes the bile. The dysbiosis changes the bile, makes it more toxic. It goes back up to the liver, damages the liver. Liver then can't detox well, makes more toxic bile, and the loop continues. So they're saying here the consumption of probiotics has a beneficial effect in the treatment of acne vulgaris. Well, I'm going to simplify it. The more you fix your gut dysbiosis, the healthier you're going to be in every single way. There's three major types of gut dysbiosis. There's fermentative, there's putrefactive, and there's mixed. I go over this in the program. Don't just assume that you need to eat yogurt or take Bifido. If you ever try a probiotic and you feel bad on it past the 2-week mark, if you're still taking it after 2 weeks and you still feel bad on it or the bad is getting worse, stop it. Do not take it anymore. We allow a little bit of worsening in the first 2 weeks of taking probiotics because it's changing your gut biome. Old things are going to get cleaned up out of there. There's like a war going on with the bacteria down there. So you might have a little bit of negative symptoms, but you should be noticing good things along the way. If a probiotic is going to help you, you should be noticing what you want to see is the good things going up and the bad things going down. That means the probiotic is helping you. So within those first 2 weeks, you should see them crisscross. The good keeps improving and the bad keeps going down. If you don't have that, stop taking the probiotic. Okay, so other important ingredients in the diet. In the diet of individuals with acne vulgaris, milk, protein supplements, and other dairy products should be limited or completely eliminated. I don't like protein powders. The only ones I sort of think are okay is like collagen and gelatin. And even still, as people with histamine issues talk about, they seem to cause a lot of histamine issues in people. Oh, wait. On the other hand, consumption of fermented dairy products is recommended. Why? Is it because they're fermented? Due to the presence of lactoferrin. What is our biggest selling supplement for helping people with their liver and fixing their bile problems? It's lactoferrin. Lactoferrin inhibits the proliferation of Cutibacterium acnes by damaging their cell membranes and thus leading to their death. For 12 weeks, the patients were fed daily with fermented milk containing 200 milligrams of lactoferrin. I'm assuming they added that to it. It'd be really hard to standardize fermented milk to lactoferrin content. Anyway, after which the amount and severity of common acne vulgaris were assessed during monthly visits. Patients in the lactoferrin group manifested a significant reduction in inflammatory lesions, approximately 39%, and acne vulgaris severity, approximately 20% after 12 weeks compared to the placebo group. In this group, the amount of secreted sebum also decreased by approximately 31%. I can tell you that if you tolerate lactoferrin, if you take the right amount and you tolerate it, it's reducing sebum, but it's actually helping to fix your toxic bile leakages. That's in the research. It stimulates cholangiocytes, bile duct cells, to reproduce and make more so they can fix the damage. And it actually helps you make more bile, but it's decreasing sebum. The same thing that isotretinoin did. But as you saw, isotretinoin does it through reducing your bile production, which will eventually cause disaster. If not immediately, it will cause it at some point. Lactoferrin is helping with the actual root cause of the problem. Now, if you decide to try my lactoferrin, it is the most potent stuff on the market. There are links we send links to you. There's links in the Love Your Liver program. There's a free link that you should click on in the instructions on the lactoferrin about starting slowly, because I care about you. And lactoferrin is a very, very strong medicine in terms of increasing bile production. If you increase bile production too fast, you may leak more, right? If you have a leak in a faucet and you turn the faucet on full blast, the leak increases too. So I talk about starting slowly so that you don't feel too bad. Okay. Yeah. So that lactoferrin has a beneficial effect both in combination with vitamin E, which I don't recommend, and zinc. Jeez, this is just 5 milligrams. That's crappy zinc gluconate taken twice daily, as well as alone as 100 milligrams of lactoferrin enriched whey milk protein powder twice a day, and in the amount of 200 milligrams of lactoferrin alone as described above. So our lactoferrin pills are 400 milligrams. So that's why we have to, these are the study doses. Sometimes we have to have people open the capsules and take a smaller amount because it's really potent. Among other dietary factors which exacerbate acne vulgaris lesions, alcohol consumption should be mentioned. This was confirmed in the study by Suh et al. Nutritional, behavioral, clinical, and epidemiological factors were analyzed in a group of 1,236 patients from 17 hospitals. Alcohol consumption was shown to be more strongly correlated with severity of acne vulgaris symptoms in men than in women. Overly salty foods. Like there's people out there, I see Peters on Twitter, they're like, as much salt as you can take. And I'm like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. I had a guy come to me once. He was like, I've been doing 25 milligrams of, or 25 grams of salt a day. 25 grams. And he was like, I have a problem. I think I have a mineral imbalance. And I'm like, well, why don't we do a hair test and see how your mineral imbalance is? He's like, no, I don't think I need that. I think I just have a mineral imbalance. How do I fix it? I'm like, we look at the minerals and how they're balanced, and then we fix them. I don't think that's going to fix. I was like, I'm done. I'm done. If you come to me telling me you have a problem and I tell you, let's look for the problem, let's test, not guess, then address. That's what I do. I'm going to lose patience. I got a lot of people to help. I don't have time to sit there and argue with you over the same problem, just differently worded. So anyway, salty foods. Acne vulgaris patients consumed higher amounts of the tested ingredient. I'm assuming they mean salt. The amount of sodium chloride consumed and the age of patients affected by acne vulgaris compared to control. So look at this. Is the big difference. 3,300 milligrams of salt. I don't know if they mean, I'm assuming they mean sodium chloride. That's a lot of salt. Compared to controls, the median was 2,200. That's a pretty more normal dose. However, consumption of spicy foods did not correlate with disease severity or duration. Okay, so maybe spicy foods don't affect acne. Okay, still don't eat them. They're biological warfare made by plants. This is the weird thing. A negative correlation was found between the amount of sodium chloride consumed and the age of patients. So the higher the age of the acne vulgaris patients, there was a negative correlation to sodium intake. So a lower sodium intake caused the problem. And in the lower aged acne vulgaris patients, a higher consumption of sodium caused the problem. That's what I'm reading out of that. It's a very strange thing. But just here's what I'm telling you. If other people, first of all, you want to get a clean salt. Single ingredient, bright white in color, Jacobsen salt is the best by far. It's a little pricey. If you don't want microplastic, they actually test their salt for microplastics. There's no microplastics in it. There's no rust in it like pink salt or real salt. You don't want colors in your salt. Those are minerals that you don't want. Red color or pink color is rust. You're eating rust. Too much salt isn't good. Too little salt isn't good. Salt your food to taste. As you get healthier, as we have people do the program, they start to notice that their salt tastes can change. If they used to put a ton of salt on their stuff, they find that they don't need as much. And people who did the horrible thing of avoiding all salt entirely, don't do that. The people who do not salt their food at all are the hardest people for me to fix. I can't fix them. I don't know why. But they insist on not putting salt on their food. And I just kind of, when they keep coming back to me going, I'm not getting any better, I'm not getting any better, I go, well, you won't salt your food. Like, you need to salt your food. So, here we go. It was demonstrated that frequent consumption of carbonated drinks, fruit-flavored drinks, and sweetened tea more than 7 times a week, particularly consumption of more than 100 grams of sugar, was associated with moderate or severe acne vulgaris. Shocker. Lots of sugar is associated with acne. Sugar, dairy, chocolate, fix your zinc deficiency. And then selenium too. Oh, and maybe lactoferrin. Gosh, what do we talk about here? Crazy. This is the one I think, this was where I had the B12 and stuff. Yeah, that's the B12. Okay. So let me go find. So let's, well, we kind of already hit on the lactoferrin. Here is one of the actual lactoferrin studies they quoted. I got to move on from this. This is the lactoferrin and zinc one that they were talking about. So we're just going to move on. I put the link in there. We'll just read the title. A randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial to determine the efficacy and safety of lactoferrin with vitamin E and zinc as an oral therapy for mild to moderate acne vulgaris. Lactoferrin group, significant reduction as early as 2 weeks, with the max reduction occurring at week 10. Takes a while to fix leaky bile ducts. Sebum scores were down. So yeah, that's that one. This is another lactoferrin paper. Efficacy and tolerability of oral lactoferrin supplementation in mild to moderate acne vulgaris, an exploratory study. At the end of 8 weeks, a mean reduction in inflammatory lesion count of 20% less zits, basically. In non-inflammatory lesion count was 23.5%, and in total lesion count was 22.5%, was observed as compared with baseline. At study conclusion, 76.9% of subjects showed a reduction in total lesion count. None of the subjects experienced a lactoferrin-related adverse event during the trial. Now, am I gonna say that? Now, some people don't feel very good on lactoferrin. It's too strong for them. But they often, in these studies, they filter out the really sick people. I don't filter out the really sick people. I take the really sick people. So they tend to have stronger reactions. Lactoferrin in mild to moderate acne vulgaris is well tolerated and may lead to an overall improvement in acne lesion counts in the majority of affected adolescents and young adults when administered as a dietary supplement on a twice daily regimen. You can do it twice, you can do it once, you can do it 3 times a day. Just make sure that you follow the instructions that I link on the bottle and on the website. So let's go look at this. That was lactoferrin. Everything in serum and bile. Is this the old one? Oh, yeah, this was one I wanted to go over. So this is just, again, with bile and sebum. So this paper, an integrated analysis and comparison of serum, saliva, and sebum for COVID-19 metabolomics. That's where they're analyzing a bunch of things in the blood. Okay? Now, I'm not a big believer in viruses. So what I did was I made sure to give you guys, and make sure to give you guys this link to the paper from Anthony Mawson. Liver damage and exposure to toxic concentrations of endogenous retinoids, vitamin A, in the pathogenesis, the cause of COVID-19 disease. So go read this one first so you understand what a toxic bile dump full of vitamin A causes. Some people call it the COOF or the COVID. So vitamin A spilling out into your bloodstream via toxic leaky bile is what that detox dump looks like. We call it COVID. So now you come back here. So remember, I just said toxic leaky bile leaking into your bloodstream. Okay, so now when we look at this, an integrated analysis for comparison of serum, saliva, and sebum for COVID-19 metabolomics, we know it's a big bile dump. That's what I'm setting you up for here, okay? The biofluids analyzed herein were also compared in terms of their ability to differentiate COVID-19 positive participants from controls. Serum performed best by multivariate analysis, sensitivity and specificity. With the dominant changes in triglycerides, wait, what raises triglycerides again? Oh, vitamin A. And bile acid levels. Toxic leaky bile? Concordant with other studies identifying dyslipidemia like high cholesterol and high triglycerides as a hallmark of COVID-19 infection. Weird how all this fits together. Where's the, I swear there was a sebum thing in here. Maybe it was just linking the vitamin A to it. Did they do sebum in this one? Let me just double check. Sebum. Yeah. There was a marked correlation between sebum lipids and the immunostimulatory hormone DHEA sulfate in the COVID-19 positive cohort. Let's go see if we can find anything else. Oh, yes, sebum performed well, with saliva performing worst. These findings show that alterations to skin lipid profiles coincide with dyslipidemia in the serum. Gosh, why would the body be trying to detox the blood out through the skin? So there's more sebum and there's more cholesterol and triglycerides in the skin. Are you seeing that these are waste products? They're waste products. Now, that's that one. Okay, so now we're going to go over. I will not answer any questions here on this today because we are about to unleash, and by we, I mean Kelsey and I. Kelsey's the expert in this area. Kelsey is who did the ivermectin video with me a while back. She sent me these papers to go over as well. There are new articles, very, very important, if you even wanted to call it the secret weapon articles, that are about to come out in the Love Your Liver program today. This afternoon, after this episode. I will be announcing it. We will be sending emails. I'll be sending it on all my social media. If you aren't a member of the Love Your Liver program, the Nutrition Detective Network, and you can't get into the Love Your Liver program because you haven't paid yet, you don't get to see it. If you take what I'm about to say and you go out and you do your own personal experimentation with it without knowing the information in the Love Your Liver program, I take no responsibility for whatever you do to yourself. Because if you don't know how to deal with the proper forms and the proper approaches to niacin supplementation, it's not a vitamin. It's not vitamin B3. It's an amino acid. Niacin comes from tryptophan. Niacin is an amino acid. Niacin is not a B vitamin. That's why it's going to not fit into all the other stuff I believe about B vitamins being oftentimes counterproductive. But let's go into this. Dyssebacia. Sebum. Dysfunctional sebum. Okay? A feature that points to an underlying pellagra. What is pellagra? Well, that's niacin nicotinic acid or nicotinate deficiency. It's one of the things we like to do here for people who are like, well, this doesn't prove anything. What we like to do when we're talking about nutrients is we like to show first that the deficiency causes a problem. And then we like to show that supplementing it helps fix the problem. Like, how else are we going to prove that it fits together, right? Well, you show that the deficiency is associated with the problem, and then you show that supplementing it can help. We're going to do that exactly right here. So, pellagra is niacin nicotinic acid nicotinate flush niacin deficiency. I'm not going to talk about any other forms of nicotinic acid. We're talking about nicotinic acid. If you don't know what that is, you really need to read the articles that we're going to put out later today. Here we go. They're talking about niacin, and we don't call it B3. We will never call it B3. Its deficiency can easily be missed unless a patient presents with the characteristic photosensitive rash. Hey, you know what else causes photosensitivity? Vitamin A toxicity. Dyssebacia is the name coined to describe numerous plugs of inspissated sebum projecting from dilated orifices of sebaceous glands. Plugged up sebum glands. Sounds like whiteheads. It is occasionally found to precede other dermatological findings in pellagra. Oh, so you mean acne shows up before worse problems? Hence, it is important for a clinician to know this unusual finding, dyssebacia, which helps in early detection and treatment of the deficiency. Okay, so there's one connection. Wow, look at the title of this paper. Acne vulgaris is a special clinical type of pellagra. Patients with acne are frequently associated with abnormal serum lipid levels and elevated sebum secretion. Foam cells are an important pathological change in acne lesions. Niacin is the only, I'm going to say nutrient here, that promotes the efflux of cholesterol and other lipids from cells and prevents foam cell formation. Foam cells are an important pathological change in acne lesions. Niacin, nicotinic acid, prevents foam cell formation. Foam cells in acne lesions suggest that patients with acne are deficient in niacin. Recently, several studies have reported the efficacy and safety of nicotinamide. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do nicotinamide. Don't do niacinamide. Don't. You've been warned. And niacin for acne treatment. Summary: based on an analysis, the clinical feature of acne patients, pathological changes in acne lesions, and the therapeutic effects of niacin on acne, we propose that acne can be diagnosed as a specific clinical type of pellagra, niacin deficiency, and that niacin is the first choice for treatment of acne vulgaris. Just wait until you go into these articles, folks who are in the Love Your Liver program, and you see me connecting vitamin A toxicity to niacin deficiency. It's going to be fun. This is a huge part. Don't go take nicotinamide or niacinamide, and the niacin that's in the what's called niacin that's in fortified foods, and what's in your B complex, and what's in your multivitamin is garbage, and it's bad for you. You can go and mess this up. You can go in the Love Your Liver program and get all the information that Kelsey has and get it right and get my take on it and my additions to it. Or you can save your money and go out and maybe cause yourself problems because you don't know what you're doing. That's up to you. It's always up to you. Let's go into this last paper. So we talked about, they showed deficiency is associated with patterns in, Will, it's coming out this afternoon. I just Kelsey and I are going to chat after I get done with the inner circle. We're going to just finalize the stuff that we have right now. There's still a couple articles that she's doing. She's finishing up a couple things, but it will be coming out this afternoon, and then we'll be adding any of the little pieces that are still left. I do this link. Okay, high-dose niacin in the treatment of acne vulgaris. Oh, wait, here, let me do it a little bigger. Oh, wait, where'd it go? There it is. Okay, here we go. We showed that deficiency patterns go along with what they know about niacin deficiency. So does supplementing it help? High-dose niacin in the treatment of acne vulgaris, a pilot study. Acne patients are frequently associated with abnormal lipid profile. It may be useful to apply high dose of niacin that regulates the lipid profile along with acne treatment. Both groups were treated orally with the tablets of niacin. For 12 weeks, the niacin group at an increasing dose of niacin tablet, 2,000 milligrams. They started slow, small, and went up. Do you ever hear anybody talk about that? Like, so you don't mess yourself up? If you go out and you take flush niacin, nicotinic acid, nicotinate, and you get a flush and you freak yourself out, well, first of all, you probably didn't read the articles that we have to talk to you about what you can do to either minimize it or just so you know what's coming and how you know that it's not an allergic reaction. You should go read that stuff first. So wait until it comes out this afternoon before you order anything, before you take anything, and then we'll start moving forward. All patients were asked not to consume certain foods such as milk and alcohol. Well, gosh, that would help acne, wouldn't it? A high protein, ooh, that sounds good. Low fat, hey. Low glycemic load diet, hey. High soluble fiber was recommended in both groups. It sounds like they're doing the Love Your Liver program to an extent. After 12 weeks of treatment, I want you to pay attention to these numbers. Forget about the nicotinamide. Garbage. After 12 weeks of treatment, niacin caused improvement in acne patients. Improvement in the niacin group, 82.4%. 12, how many weeks was it? Was it 12 weeks? 12 weeks. 12 weeks, escalating dose. In 12 weeks, 82.4% was significantly higher than the nicotinamide group, 63%. The number of successful cases in the niacin group was significantly higher than in the nicotinamide group after 12 weeks of treatment. Do not take nicotinamide. I'll just say it again. Don't anyone out there in the Love Your Liver program or not, take nicotinamide or niacinamide and come back to me later with problems. Don't. I think I've said it enough. Conclusions. High dose niacin can really, this is obviously not English speakers, native English speakers. High dose niacin can really do it work in treatment of acne vulgaris. The therapeutic effect of high dose of niacin in treatment of acne vulgaris is more effective than nicotinamide. Don't do nicotinamide or niacinamide. Don't smoke nicotine or take nicotine trying to get nicotinic acid. Joe, it's slightly related. When you oxidize nicotine, you can get some nicotinic acid, but it's a stupid way of getting it. It's a toxic way of getting it. Pharma is selling you nicotine. Yeah, Finsk, it really do it work. Really do it work. So anyway, that's, folks, I can't tell you. So one of the things Kelsey told me about nicotinic acid was that nicotinate, which is another form of nicotinic acid, it's like glycine. If you put glycine on something, it becomes glycinate, magnesium glycinate, molybdenum glycinate. You bind an amino acid to something and it turns into an ATE, ATE, molybdenum glycinate, magnesium glycinate, glycine bound to a mineral. Then you have nicotinic acid, which can be bound to a mineral, which we teach you how to make, sodium nicotinate, potassium nicotinate, magnesium nicotinate. So it's buffered and everything goes easier. Remember, this is a major, this is the one of the biggest, but sorry. What Kelsey also taught me was that nicotinate is a cofactor for, guess what magical molecule in the body? Lactoferrin. So if you were lacking nicotinate and you were vitamin A toxic, which destroys the very cells that make lactoferrin, if you are vitamin A toxic, which destroys the neutrophils and the epithelial cells that make lactoferrin, and you were nicotinic acid, Na deficient, how in the world would you make lactoferrin? And what do we find is one of our most helpful, best-selling supplements here? Lactoferrin. It's weird how all of this fits together. I'm so glad, and all of you who end up seeing this and later where we talk about this, thank Kelsey Kenny. She's on the network. You can thank her here in the comments. We're going to do another video on PGP inhibitors. She educated me to that. And so just like we did the special on ivermectin, she's got more information on PGP inhibitors, and we're going to go over that. So huge thanks to Kelsey. I give her credit in the articles. I actually only wrote like 2 articles. One of them is my mea culpa about niacin, because I had been miseducated on this. The propaganda and the lies about nicotinic acid are basically just as bad, but in the opposite way of vitamin A. I want you to understand what I'm saying. They talk about vitamin A like it's good. Everywhere they talk about it as it's good. And then all of a sudden, it's not necessary, and we come out showing, here's all the studies that show how it's bad. Nicotinic acid has been demonized. The proper form of it, not the other stuff. I don't care about any other stuff. Don't talk to me about the other stuff. Nicotinic acid is all we're going to talk about. That is what has been demonized. And that, when you see the research that I present about how it fights against vitamin A toxicity and how to take it, it'll all make sense. Kelsey is getting all of the case studies where they tried to say that nicotinic acid caused liver problems. And she's going to show you how, like, people were taking liver toxic herbs at the same time, and they were drinking corn oil, and they were doing all sorts of other stupid things. But what did conventional nutritional medicine do? They blamed the nicotinic acid. It's when you start learning about it, and when you learn that the right stuff, they confuse the whole issue. They just call all of it niacin, just like they call all of it vitamin A. And then they hide the different forms. And we're saying there's only one form of niacin to use. It's exactly the opposite of the vitamin A propaganda. Yeah, Zen Dog Breath said, damn ambiguators. Yes, they made it ambiguous. Okay, I'm not going to go over all the details on it. Kelsey is working on the niaspiracy, she calls it, the conspiracy against niacin. It becomes very obvious when you start to see it. And I do my mea culpa, showing all the ways that nicotinic acid relates to the Love Your Liver program that we've been doing before and how it all fits together. When you see the mea culpa, there was 11 things I figured out that related to things we were already doing in the Love Your Liver program that Kelsey educated me to in the research. You would not believe how much research she has gone over about this, and how there are decently smart people out there who still can't register it in their brains to do it right. We're making this really simple. Okay. Kelsey had faith in me. She talked to me one day. She goes, I think this could help your mom. My mom with her Parkinson's, Parkinson's-like syndrome. My mom's on some now. My mom has been improving. I've been experimenting, as I do for you guys, for my people. I've been doing high dose experimenting to show that it's not toxic and to see what the symptoms are when you take too much. Fabuladium, is nicotinamide okay? No, I've said about 10 times. Niacinamide and nicotinamide are not okay. Garbage. They are slowing down your production of NAD overall. They are salvage pathway stuff. You don't want them. We only use nicotinic acid, nicotinate, flush niacin. That's it. So, but if you do too much, it's a poison on the way in, it's a poison on the way out. If you do too much of it without knowing how to buffer it, without actually stopping, I want you to think about this. Let's say you're taking something that helps your detox, but you're still intoxing. I don't want people doing we, Kelsey and I, do not want people doing high dose niacin when they're still, like, don't tell your family members who don't do any of this stuff to start high dosing niacin. Here's my theory on it. You're putting in tons of toxins, which are getting stored, and then the nicotinic acid is helping to kick them out. And it's gonna I think it's gonna wear out the mechanism of putting things in, taking them out, putting things in, taking them out, putting them in, taking them out. You're going to cause problems. Now, can people benefit from very low doses? Yeah, we go over low dose. We're going to go over moderate dose. We're going to go over high dose. We're going to go over mega dose. Fabuladium, I've said it several times, nicotinic acid or nicotinate or flush niacin. Start very small, which we'll go over in the article. So remember, if you decide to do anything based on information, I'm not giving you dosing information here. So you do anything because you want to save some money and not join the Love Your Liver program, that's all on you. A couple months of niacin supplements would pay for your Love Your Liver approach, and then you get tons of other benefits of all the other stuff that we talk about. So, So let me go and get this super chat before I got to go to the inner circle inside the Love Your Liver. So Nature Sounds asks, what would you suggest for mucus after surgery? You're going to have to give me a little more information. Where is, are we, I want to make sure are you talking about mucus in the throat? I just want to make sure, because you can have mucus in your nose. You could be talking about, I just want to make sure that you're not talking about like a weeping wound or something, and you're not calling that mucus. I just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. And thank you very much for the super chat. So I'm down at the bottom. So hopefully, if you're there, Nature Sounds. If not, I'll still answer the question. You could watch it later. Sorry if you had to leave. Okay. Well. Oh, there it is. Oh, thank you, Joe. You just found that. Okay. Let me see this. Hey, love your live. This is what he added. Hey, love your live streams. I just had eye surgery due to a detached retina from a tennis ball. Ouch. After the surgery, I have really strong mucus. What would you do in such a situation? Thanks a lot. Okay, so that's kind of, I still don't know where the mucus is. Is it in your eye, or is it like is it snot mucus, right? Throat, sinus, phlegm type mucus. I just don't have an idea. Throat and gut. Okay. So you could do things like, we generally, if it is some sort, as you saw, sebum as an example, related with toxicity. So if you are fairly toxic, one of the things that will happen under trauma is you will start dumping a lot of bile into your system. One of the ways that we get rid of, well, also if you did surgery, okay, let's just relate this to detox. Hopefully this will make sense to everybody. If they went in and they did surgery on your eye, right? They're going to they're going to do local stuff to your eye that's toxic, anesthetics, other compounds. They're going to put stuff in your eye that is most likely toxic because they want to shut the normal processes down so they can do their stuff and then step away, and then it heals, right? That's their goal. But they put toxic stuff into your eye. Your body's going to start detoxing that. So in this area of your body, where are the detox pathways related? Well, some of it might go out your ears. Some of it might go out your nose. If it's going out in your sinuses, you're going to have, what's that called? The throat, the postnasal drip. You're going to have postnasal drip back there. You're detoxing stuff from, I actually think that as we get people who have a tendency, like genetically or just in their family, to have neurological issues, brain toxicity issues, they tend to detox through there might be saliva, maybe phlegm, maybe the eyes are watery, maybe they're getting the wetness in the ears. You detox it through the pathways that are the closest. That's the easiest, right? You don't have to transport it very far. You don't want it going through the blood if you don't have to. So, in terms of this, if you can, how do I explain this? If you can touch the mucus with, let me go look something up real quick. Let me go over here. Let's go active. See if there's anything. Nothing specific to mucus. But anyway, usually what we do, if there's a problem like this, so obviously you're not going to put this in your eye. Okay. Activated charcoal would be one way to soak this stuff up. I'm going to say the mucus is stuff your body's trying to expel. So activated charcoal, you could do gargles, put some activated charcoal in water, gargle it, just like that. You could take it orally if you're pooping well enough. There's, I think, 15 or 16 articles on activated charcoal in the Love Your Liver program to give you a thorough background, debunk all the myths and urban legends about charcoal. So you could gargle it just to grab onto stuff. Don't be snorting it up your nose, okay? Please, charcoal, it's not good for you to snort it. Don't be snorting it up your nose or putting it in your eye. You could actually, although if you go to charcoal, let's see, charcoal remedies.com. If you go to charcoalremedies.com, oh wait, let me put this link in there. So this link that I'm putting here is a search for charcoal. I mean, I just did a search for eyes. Okay. So that link is there now. So they just have, you could look here and see. So there might be applications where you could do it where you have a closed eye. Obviously, don't put charcoal mixed with anything over your open eye. But there might be recipes in here for poultices or other things that you could do over a closed eye. Make sure to keep your eye closed. Okay. But anyway, they have the remedies here. These are the experts in it. They do sell a lot of coconut charcoal. I don't really care for coconut charcoal as much as I like hardwood charcoal or bamboo charcoal. So there's these. The other thing that people can then do is we either try to soak it up or we try to oxidize the toxins that are coming out. Things that I'm not going to go into detail on each one of these, but things that people might use to oxidize toxins would be something like colloidal silver. They might gargle it. They might take it orally. They might, I have personally, I'm not going to tell you to do this, but I have personally used straight colloidal silver in my eyes. It stings a little bit because it's not isotonic, but it's not a big deal to me. I'm probably tougher than your average bear, but it didn't bother me much. I even got my kids to do it. They didn't really like it, but they handled it. So like with pink eye or something like, so you can oxidize the toxins with something like colloidal silver. There are other oxidizers out there that people talk about, certain chlorine compounds, other things like that. I don't know about putting them in your eye, but you can also do things. I've done nebulizer with colloidal silver, where you're breathing the colloidal silver into your lungs and up into your sinuses. Like if you wanted to work on your sinuses, the nebulizer you suck in through the mouth and then you exhale through the nose. So you're taking the silver up and out your nose to oxidize along that pathway. But those are the two general approaches. Oxidizers that you know, don't do something that you don't know that other people have done before with your eyes. That's just a bit of warning. If you don't see multiple people saying this is okay, then don't do it. Kelsey will likely be making some various recipes of nicotinic acid in the Love Your Liver program. We were talking about a spray. We were talking about, she made some of her own eye drops with it. So there will be stuff about that. Do it yourself type stuff that you can do at home. But yeah, it's mainly either washing it or, we either try to, you can wash it off, where you could scrub it off, you could rub it off kind of thing, but it's still going to keep coming. You can soak it up because we're assuming that your body's trying to push out toxins through that area. So we just help it. It's like, here's an idea. If you go and research on the internet, eczema and charcoal baths or eczema and colloidal oat baths or oatmeal baths, you'll find that both charcoal baths and colloidal oat baths or oatmeal baths help eczema. What is eczema? Based on what you learned today and what we've been over, eczema is pushing out toxic bile and vitamin A compounds and other toxic garbage through the skin, causing damage to the skin on the way out. So what do we do? What is oatmeal doing in a bath? What is charcoal doing in a bath? It's helping it come out faster. You're speeding up the detox in a good way that usually doesn't cause aggravations. You're just grabbing it onto it so it's not there anymore. Because when it sits in the skin is when it causes the damage. You take it out of the skin, all of a sudden, the irritant is gone. So that's what charcoal can do. Then there's the oxidizers, colloidal silver. I've talked about my story about valley fever with colloidal silver before, where I got rid of valley fever, basically got rid of the cough in 2 days and the fatigue in 2 weeks with high dose colloidal silver, both nebulizing it 4 times a day for the first couple days and then taking it orally 4 times a day for the first couple days. And then I basically continued a process of that for 2 weeks. But the really high doses got rid of it in 2 days. So we either oxidize it or we soak it up. That's the main 2 approaches. But here on the YouTubes, I can't I don't give very specific instructions because I just don't need to hang myself out there like that to get in trouble. But those are things that other people in the comments may want to expand on that. Or in the Love Your Liver network, we got like over 2,000 people where you can come. It's like a social network. You can come in and post your question. And if people know or they've done things that have helped them, they will often post to help you. It's just like Facebook, except everybody in the Nutrition Detective Network is on the same journey and they're all trying to get better and they all want everybody else to get better. Unlike Facebook and Twitter, which is just full of trolls and haters. There's people, I don't tolerate people in the Love Your Liver program or the Nutrition Detective Network coming in and causing problems. I don't care if people say I rule with an iron fist. This work is too important for me to worry about somebody being able to speak their mind. I don't care. I'm here to do a job. I'm on a mission. It is not a democracy. This is not a democracy. It never will be. I'll listen to arguments. Don't get me wrong. Kelsey came. I used to think niacin was all bad, or I just wasn't sure about it because I'd seen enough bad stuff. And then when Kelsey came to me and she educated me, just like I try to do here every week with you guys, and she educated me to what I had wrong and what I misunderstood. And then I saw the benefits of it. I went, holy, just like when I read Grant Genereux's book, I realized, oh crap. It only took me like 30 minutes of reading Grant Genereux's book to go, holy crap, I have vitamin A completely wrong. When I started in hair analysis and I learned about vitamin D supplements being absolutely toxic and causing all sorts of problems, including hypothyroid patterns, high calcium, low potassium, I went, oh crap, I'm not using that anymore. And I used to push that on everybody. Kelsey came along. She was stubborn. She was willful. It was good. She hung in with me. She believed in me that I was going to get it. I'm open-minded to stuff when it's presented in a good way, and she did it great. And now I think this will be one of the biggest developments in the Love Your Liver program, short of lactoferrin, but all the now just let me say this last thing before I go. Some people are going to think that I'm saying nicotinic acid is a magic pill and that you don't have to do anything else. Let me shut that garbage down right away. Can it help you a lot? Sure. Here's what I can tell you. Kelsey herself has been doing nicotinic acid a lot for a while now, and it helped her with many things. She found the Love Your Liver program, and she's working on testing and consultation with me, and she is now continuing to make improvements beyond what she was already making. On the other hand, I had been doing the Love Your Liver stuff for a long time, and then I learned about the nicotinic acid, and I added it, and then I started making improvements. We both were doing the opposite sides, and then we integrated them, and then it's going even better. So if you just read the instructions in the articles, don't mess around with this. Like, don't F around with it. Follow the instructions, just like I tell you to do with lactoferrin. Start slow. Don't go off and be a cowboy and thinking you're smarter than everybody else just because you read some stuff on the internet. Don't do it. Anyway, was there anything else, Joe? Did anybody else sneak in any Super chats, or are we all done? I think we're about all done. I got to get to the inner circle. So, oh wait, I didn't get to Ramon's. Ramon's, yes. I remember Ramon's. So Nature Sounds, I hope that helps. I hope that helped with that. Thank you for the super chat. Okay, Ramon, sorry. Ramon asks, what's the mechanism behind fat blunting a blood glucose spike from carbs and protein when added to these? You say not to add extra fat to your food. Thank you. Well, let me clarify the last part. This is the last question. I don't. How does fat blunt the blood glucose spike from carbs and protein? I don't know. It could be just kind of like, you know how, I mean, this is a theory. I don't know. Could be the fat kind of coating things. Because, you know, fat does that, right? It puts a nice fatty film on everything. This might somehow make it take longer for it to be digested, absorbed. And so that could slow it down. It could have something to do with bile. I don't know. Now, in terms of extra fat being added to meals, generally, I think humans do well with, before anybody says that I do a low-fat diet, we don't do a low-fat diet. It's called not adding processed, isolated fats. I mean, people talk about don't eat processed foods, and then they add oil to their food or butter to their food. And I'm like, that's a processed food. When people are like, cod liver oil is a whole food supplement. I'm like, no, it's not. The cod liver was a whole food, and you squeezed out the liver cells. You let them rot and explode and spill out the oil in them. And then you watch the oil rise to the top of this nasty liver water. And then you skimmed off the cod liver oil from it. That's not a whole food. Give me a break. So we're talking about not eating isolated fats, which are processed food. Right? I don't eat white sugar. Don't eat processed fats. Like MCT is like the white sugar of fats. People are like, oh, it just totally bypasses your digestion. I'm like, wow, that's a good thing. So it's so processed, it just goes right in. I never saw crap in terms of results on anybody from MCTs. What a bunch of garbage. Anyway, I talk about two things in terms of added fats. One is that overtypes, people who tend to gain weight quite easily and who are carrying more body fat than they need, you got plenty of fat on you. You don't need to add fats to your food. Simple, right? Your preference would be to burn the fat that's on your body. Next, there's the undertypes who tend to, I believe that they're very, very good at, they're not good at getting stuff out of their liver. So stuff tends to get stuck in their liver. They tend to have, actually went over this, they probably have more intrahepatic cholestasis. They tend to be underweight, and they tend to be very sensitive to things. Because when they do dump bile, they dump it straight back into their bloodstream. That's intrahepatic cholestasis. So those folks, because they're so bad at making body fat, because that's why they're so skinny, right? They're so bad at making body fat that they may need a little bit of added fats. They may need some added fats to maintain their weight and store some of the toxins so that they don't float around in their blood all day, causing them symptoms. In terms of blunting a blood sugar spike, I don't care about that, because of the fat in terms of that, because I think the vitamin A does a worse problem than carbs and protein any day. But again, you saw that acne had blood sugar problems, insulin resistance type things with it. So we want to, it all fits together. Diabetes, I've been over the studies on diabetes where diabetics had twice as much bile in their blood. Toxic bile theory. They give people vitamin A, their insulin resistance gets worse. Acne tends to go with poor blood sugar control. Humans, added fats were never a natural part of what I call a wild living human diet. If people are out there demonizing sugar, which they should be, isolated sugar, they should be out there demonizing isolated fats. and isolated proteins like whey protein and casein protein. We tried the minimal you use of powders and isolated liquids like oils. Generally, the better off you're going to be. With undertypes, sometimes we have to get them better first, turn them into overtypes before they get rid of the fat. This is what we do that's different than everybody else, is we adapt to the person's state. We don't make them fit a protocol. Protocols are for people who want to shut off their brain. If you want to shut off your brain and you want to go do a protocol somewhere else, that's fine. There's plenty of protocols out there. They'll sell you tons of supplements and watch you suffer. And then be like, oh, you must be doing something wrong. You need to do this better. No, it's just not. The protocol, the recipe wasn't good enough for you. If you make a recipe exact and you go, this is too salty, I don't like it. How can you fix it? You just put in less salt. Protocols suck, right? Doesn't everybody change recipes at their house? Why would you ever do a protocol for something as important as your health? It doesn't make sense. Okay. Joel told me there's another chat. Let me see if I can. I'll go grab that, and then we'll be done. Dylan Black. What would the evolutionary reason be for toxins making us feel good? Things like caffeine and opium. Well, you have to think about this first. Most of the time, the first time somebody does a drug or alcohol or whatever, they often don't like it the first time. Like caffeine usually freaks people out the first time because they get a high heart rate and they maybe get anxious and other stuff like that. But then they keep doing it. So in terms of the evolutionary reason or the God-designed reason, whichever one you choose to think of, why it's there, I don't know. Temptation. I mean, toxic things are addictive. Why do people take pharmaceuticals these days? Like, they know how toxic they are, but who do they run to when they're sick? They run to the MDs to give them things that they know are poisons. They're like, oh, you ever see that commercial? And they list off the side effects, and people will still go take them. People will say that bourbon tastes good. That the bourbon is like my biggest example. It's like they'll smoke cigars. They'll drink coffee. What do they have to do to drink coffee? They got to put in tons of sugar and tons of dairy because black coffee tastes like ass. Totally dark chocolate tastes like ass. You have to convince yourself, you have to have these things, your body's taste sensors. Just think if you feed these things to a child. If you fed them to a child the first time, the child will spit them out and maybe cry because they taste that bad. We as adults have decided that it is worth it to us to take poisons for the feeling they give us, even though our natural taste sensors tell us this is poison, don't eat it, spit it out. But we have adaptations because this is the example given to me by Alan Carr, who's an expert in addiction. He said, what humans are good at doing is adapting. This is why we've conquered every area of this planet. But what that means is, let's say you're out there and you're starving and you have to eat weeds. Normally that people would never, they don't normally eat them because they don't taste good because they're toxic. But it's either, as I tell people here, like, you got to eat something because starvation will kill you. Starvation will make you sick. Starvation will kill you. So you got to find something to eat. So if you could only eat one food, boy, you better eat enough of that food. If that's just where your health is at the time, and we have people who come to us like this. Actually, one woman, she was down to 3 foods when she came to us, and all of a sudden now she's able to tolerate beef again. So we're going to she's adding beef because she's getting better and she's able to add stuff. This is what we do. But when you can't eat stuff, you better eat what you can. Anyway, so if you only had weeds around to eat that were bitter, but they gave you nourishment to survive. So you're going to eat them unless you're stupid, right? We don't want to be stupid. It's be like, eat them or don't, like eat them or die. Eat the bitter weeds or die. Okay, we'll eat the bitter weeds. Or you can choose the other side. So we eat the bitter weeds. Adaptation-wise, if you grew to hate the weeds' taste more every time you ate them, you hate them more. What are you basically mentally going to do to your body? You're going to ruin your body mentally because you're putting stuff in your body that you actively hate, that is getting worse over time. So what does your body do instead? This is like a great trick of the mind. You start to adapt to the flavor and you start to culture a taste for it. You grow a taste for it so that then you start to think, I actually like this. Wouldn't that be a much better adaptation to something that doesn't taste good, where you start to go, oh, it's not so bad. First, it's not so bad. It's not terrible. I could do this. Okay. And then you start going, oh, I actually kind of like it. Oh, this weed batch today was better than usual because it had more of this taste to it. Now, the chocolate notes or the minty notes or whatever, all the bull crap that they talk about with alcohol flavors and chocolate flavors and all of that nonsense, because they're eating something that innately tastes bad, but they're going to tell you all the little notes on it that make it not taste so bad. It's human delusion at its finest. And when people live in times or cities or areas or within families or within groups where they are not emotionally happy, or they're emotionally traumatized or damaged, what do they tend to do to escape it? They do poisonous things that change their mental state. Alcohol, opium, heroin, weed. They change coffee. I really love the explanation somebody gave me on Twitter the other day that caffeine numbs us to the pace of everyday life. We are not designed for the pace of today's life. We are not designed for it. It feels wrong. So what do? We take a speedy drug so we can level up to go along with the pace of life. Because if you don't, it just feels too wrong. And when I heard that was like, that makes so much sense. The only reason the world is the way it is today is partially, it's partially because of caffeine. Caffeine has allowed our world to become what it is today, but then it's also made it so that if you don't do caffeine, the world today doesn't feel right at all. This is why caffeine is like usually the last thing that people give up in the program, because the world outside is not changing. So anyway, that's the, you can look up the studies. I forget who's the guy. Somebody knows the name of the guy who did the experiments with the mice city or the rat city, where they had like cocaine or heroin in the water bottles. And when they did certain things and the mice were too crowded and whatever, then the mice would drink the heroin water or the cocaine water more. And then when they fixed the city so it wasn't so hectic, then all of a sudden they stopped drinking the heroin water. Somebody give me the name of that guy. You know what I'm talking about. Dylan said, wow, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's thank you, Dylan. I appreciate that. I'm here to help make sense of these things to people. So does somebody have the name of that guy? Let me see. Drug experiment, rats, mice, rat utopia. Okay. Let's see. Well, there was that rat utopia one, but there's the one guy who's like, I think I want to say his name is like Brazilian or whatever. But yeah, the Joe, if you can switch to my screen. So if you guys want to look up rat utopia, I'm not going to cover it all here today, but they talk about these rat experiments, rat utopias, where they were given unlimited access to food and water. Smithsonian Mag. How 1960s mouse utopias led to grim predictions for the future of humanity. John Calhoun studied behavior during overcrowding in mice and rats. Now, let me just, I'm going to relate this to one other thing. I just want you to think about this. There's a little different thought pattern on it, but I think this happened in the rat utopias too. How could nature instill a population control device in people who live and are experiencing an overcrowded area? What type of sexuality would tend to increase when nature wants to reduce the population? Homosexuality. Because there's no reproduction going on. It may be a lot of it. There's the programming. There's the toxicity. Like as you guys just saw, like with the soy compounds in the catfish. If you give catfish enough soy isoflavone genistein, which is a polyphenol, and they all turned female. And then yet you got these soy boys out there going, no, there's no problem with it. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. Or I show the study of retinoic acid where they poisoned the rat moms with vitamin A, and they gave the rat mothers who were pregnant hypervitaminosis A, and when the male rats were born and they dissected them, they found ovarian tissue, some ovarian tissue inside their testicles. Study in the Cell Journal. I'm not going to look it up right now. So you have males being born with part female in their sexual organs. And then you start going, wow, there sure are a lot of men feeling like women inside. That's a weird thing. And here I am talking about vitamin A toxicity all the time. So, Tim, the Pottinger cat study, if that's what you're talking about, was a taurine deficiency caused by giving the taurine deficiency in the cats. They were giving them lots of dairy protein like casein and stuff like that, which had no zinc, had tons of vitamin A in it, and it had no taurine. Pottinger cat study debunked. It's a taurine and zinc deficiency combined with vitamin A toxicity. Cats may like milk. That doesn't mean they're supposed to drink cow milk, especially not as like their main food. So this is the same thing with the China study. The China study gave the rats casein protein. Problem. It's yellowish casein protein. They say it's vitamin A free. In studies, it's not. It's full of retinoic acid. Oxidized vitamin A. Because that's what happens when they cook it and they dry it. What oxidizes things? Heat, air, light. How do you make protein powder? Heat, air, So CK was saying it's true about coffee. I did use this as an escape from the program, from a bad situation before the Love Your Liver program. Yeah, coffee if you're doing, so here's the funny thing about nicotinic acid. I'm going to tell you folks, if you start doing it right, like the stuff in the program says, you will actually find it easier to stop the other vices. You will not want the other vices so much. It's insane. I cannot tell you folks how much you're going to benefit from reading those articles and doing it. If you try to do it all just on your own through the internet, good luck. But don't come back blaming me. I'm going to give the information. I'm going to warn you not to mess it up. Kelsey's going to give you all the information that she has. I think we have 7 articles in there right now. So anyway. Yeah, Tim, Tim was saying a nutritional deficiency. It's both. It's a nutritional deficiency in terms of zinc and taurine, and it's a toxicity in terms of vitamin A. The very things we fix here all the time. Very same things. So I got to get going, folks. I've been here almost 3 hours now. Hope you all enjoyed it. Sendog says, wait, does that mean I'll be a nicer person again? Yes. When your liver's happier, you're a happier person. So all those people out there, especially in these kind of cultish nutritional approaches, whether it's Pete or carnivore or vegan or whatever, and you run into these people and they're so damn angry and irritable all the time, I'm going to tell you that it's because they're not doing good things for your liver. And if you come here and you go to the Love Your Liver program enough, you will learn why those approaches aren't working. Like, why does veganism not work? Because there's not enough zinc, and there's not enough protein, and there's too many carotenoids, and there could be too much fiber. You can absolutely do too much insoluble fiber. There could be tons of problems. When you learn this, there could be too many oxalates. When you learn these things, then all of a sudden, the things that didn't work for you in the past become more clear, and the things that did work for you in the past become more clear. And then why certain things suppressed your symptoms and made you feel better for a while, but then caused you more problems later on. Duration paradox. This is where this will all start making sense. So, hope you all enjoyed it. And I'll see you folks who are in the inner circle. I'll see you in a couple minutes. Otherwise, y'all have a great day. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment and all that stuff. Come find the new articles in the program. Like I said, they're going to be here this afternoon, November 27th. They'll be there. Talk to you later. Bye now.